Welcome to Out of the Mouth of Babe, the podcast for our future leaders. Today, we have a very special guest in the studio. Mr. Justin Burkhart is the Republican candidate for Richmond City Council at large. But before we get to Mr. Burkhart, I'm going to introduce these students and let them introduce themselves so they can tell you who they are, first and last name, what grade they're in, what they're involved in, and I'm going to ask them to kind of plug themselves and talk up and just briefly tell us what they're looking to do next year as seniors.
My name is Kevin Hanley Jr. I'm a 12th grader at Richmond High School. I'm on the football and wrestling team. Next year, I'm undecided in college, but I want to start studying marine biology.
What about your grades?
I have a 4.3 GPA right now, straight A's.
All right, next up.
Hi, I'm Hannah Cravens. I'm in 12th grade. I'm involved with a various number of activities, but in school, I'm pretty heavily involved in orchestra. I am the concert master at Richmond High School Orchestra. I am this is my second year as orchestra president. And I just recently started working with Earlham's Orchestra for their December concert. I also am a member of the Indiana Department of Health's Indiana Youth Advisory Board, and I'm the vice president of the Mental Health Subcommittee on that advisory board. So yeah, I do a various number of things. Don't want to keep talking for too long, but for my plans next year, I'm hoping to go to college, and I'm hoping to pursue something, most likely a pre-law program, working to maybe become an attorney, and yeah.
So the first time as you know, I know Kevin, but the first time I seen Hannah, Kevin and Hannah were both in the 8th grade, and they were performing at Dennis Middle School at a talent show. And I believe between the two of them, they got first and second place. And so they've known each other for a long time. And but we're here because we want to learn about Mr. Burkhart and let him tell us about his candidacy. Let him talk to us a little bit about what he's doing. So we're going to turn it over to you, Mr. Burkhart. And then once you finish your introduction, these students will start asking you questions.
Well, thank you for having me here on this podcast. And I think that it's incredible to hear what the youth here in Richmond is involved in and what they're doing. It's very inspiring, and it really, the conversation about, we've heard over time the brain drain and the reason why our kids grow up here and are educated, and then they go away and they never come back. So I think it's excellent that you guys are so involved and really sharpening your swords as young adults. So let me ask you a question. What are your plans? What are your future plans? I mean, marine biology, it'd be a little hard to do that at Clear Creek or something, but as far as we do have law offices here, is Richmond, Wayne County, even Indiana, and potentially in either one of your future plans?
Maybe it's kind of really hard with, like you said, for marine biology,
sure,
even in college, because there's not very many oceans in Indiana.
Yeah, just a few.
So I'm hoping to stay in state for a while, though. So around Richmond, yeah.
Did you ask about law and for me?
Ian coming back here, yeah.
Yeah, in the Wayne County area, so pre-law and just mentioning that sort of thing as like a possible program and possibly becoming an attorney, that's just like one of the things I'm sort of thinking of, but there's a number of possibilities in terms of possible careers or possible pathways I would be interested in, when I get into college, because, there's so many different types of law, there's so many types of different things related to law I could get involved to, but something I'm definitely interested in that I feel like I definitely would like to bring back to the community after college is some skills in public policy, for sure. That's definitely something I would be interested in bringing back. So, and our local government does do a lot around here, and so I think that there's a lot to be improved, or that could be improved. There's a lot of disparities, and there's things that could be accounted for.
Yeah, no, I think that's excellent. But another reason why I ask is that I too am a product of Richmond Community Schools, K through 12. And when I was sitting in your seat, I think I was like, no, I'm never coming back, and jobs, and I couldn't run a professional sports team from Richmond, which is not something that I ended up doing. But, it's important you're here, and it's important that you're involved in this. This is a great thing. So, as Kevin said, senior, I'm Justin Burkhart, and it's a surprise to many that I'm sitting here in this prospective city council at large seat, because I'm not overly political. I think the politics on a national level have really hurt the pursuit of getting involved, on a local level. But I didn't want that to stand in my way, because I feel like, being from Richmond, this is a special place. This is a place where we have Richmond folks. We have folks from Gary, Indiana, that come here and never leave, like Kevin. And we're a collection of good-hearted, talented Midwestern people that are looking to make an impact and change lives. And I think that we need to embrace the things that we have here, utilize our talents, and make this place a force to be reckoned with. So that was really one of my motivations to being here today. So Richmond High School in 2003, and then I went to Miami University and graduated in 2007. And then started my career. My wife, Abby Rodefeld Burkhart, is also from Richmond, also went to Miami, and we started our life in Cincinnati, working at Children's Hospital there, and really loved Cincinnati, but something just kept calling us back here to Richmond. Family, friends, and really this is a deep-rooted community of good people, and I wanted to get involved here. So we came back, and I ended up getting my master's degree from Indiana University East, master's in management in 2020. And I've just kind of followed where life has taken me. And now currently my wife and I purchased Warm Glow Candle Company in Centerville, which is really exciting and scary all at once, but it's an opportunity that we can better lives and change lives, not only in Centerville, Richmond, Wayne County, but also the travelers that get off the exit, that we can be the gateway here to show you how special our city is and our county is. So we're raising 3 kids here, and they're in 3 different school systems, Friend School, the Hibbard Logos program, and then Seton. It's wonderful that our city has all those options, because we're not cookie cutter people. We don't have a cookie cutter city, so it's great that we have options. And we're just trying to do right. We're just trying to live right, trying to do right by people, and just trying to build all others up. So I'm really happy to be here. That's a long-winded way of saying thanks for having me, and I look forward to seeing you guys grow too.
Thank you. Well, my first question for you is, why are you running, and what does it mean to you to be running for office now?
Yeah, so I'm running because I'm running for the future of Richmond. I purposely left off any kind of party logo on my sign because I'm running for Richmond. I'm running for the future. I'm running for the kids at Richmond High School, the kids at Seton, the kids at, I want better, and that's why I'm running. And that's important to me because not only are my family members here, but we've also invested as business owners. And so it's crucial that Richmond is safe and successful, and we continue growing talent here. And that's why I knew I needed to get involved. Now, this isn't a stepping stone to being the mayor. I have no interest in ever doing that. That's a thankless job. But I wanted to have a seat at the table and be able to contribute back to the city that raised me. And that's why it's important to me to represent my roots here, to also, if elected, to also be that person for seniors at Richmond High School to show you that not everything in politics is, hat worthy or is fire and brimstone, things like that, that local politics are about people wanting better for where they live. And so I want to be able to work alongside of you all and work alongside of all the people in the city that we can live in a transparent area and we can all roll up our sleeves and give back and help one another out. That's why I'm running. That's why I decided to do this crazy thing, and we'll see where it takes us on Tuesday.
Yeah, no, that's great. I'm really glad you're sort of going with this nonpartisan almost message with your campaign. Would you say, just in terms of your campaign, are you trying to remain nonpartisan throughout most of it? I know you're being represented by the Republican the Republican candidate, but what I'm hearing is that you're mainly focused on more of the community aspect. So would you agree with that?
I think that's a good way to put that. Yeah. I believe that, we all, from the scale of left to right or right to left, and then there's the middle. I really believe that I find myself in the middle and maybe just a step over to the right. But, I was early in my career a fundraiser for different nonprofit organizations, Warrenley Youth and Family Treatment Center being one of them. And I've seen firsthand that there are families out there, there are kids out there that, are a product of their environment that they were brought into. And so it's important that those that have tools and resources that we can build up and give them opportunities that they can break the cycle. And so, I think you hit the nail on the head that my message isn't along party lines. My message is really pro-Richmond. And I'd say that I've really enjoyed working with the people that I have, the other candidates that you'll meet very soon. But as for me and my family, the party that I represent and I'm fighting for is Richmond community.
Great.
Okay. Earlier you mentioned the Richmond students and how you were once a student at Richmond High School. So my question is, could you outline your strategy for improving the education in Richmond and for providing equal opportunities for all students in the city?
Yeah. So I think it's first and foremost, I'd say that the city council positions, there's really only a few things that city council is quote unquote in charge of or enlisted to do. But outside of that, what I would say is that I think that any leaders, whether it's in private industry, in nonprofit and public, including local government, I think it's imperative that those leaders open themselves up to help the next generations. And that's K through 12, and that's also we're very blessed here too to have Earlham, Ivy Tech, IU East, Purdue. We've got great higher education systems as well. I think that I've been very blessed to be surrounded by great mentors, great people that have had my back for a very long time, and if we're going to continue growing this city, we got to keep watering the seeds, and so I think it's important for not only city council members and also Richmond administrators to really partner when it's possible and to keep all that communication open and doors open that you all can be abreast of the things that are happening on the governmental level here in Richmond, and that the Richmond government administration is plugged into what's happening in the education system as well, because growth happens all the time. And so I think if elected, I would be very, very open to bringing in that arm of local government to assist growing the next generation's leaders.
I have something to ask you in terms of that. So I just spoke at it's called an INSOF conference. And so it was a conference focused on public health and figuring out kind of talking to each other and presenting as to how we can really collaborate when it comes to building like policy or something like that. And so in terms of like improving education for students in Richmond, and as a student, I've always been a student of Richmond my whole life. So I've never moved. I've always been a Richmond resident. And something that I feel, which I'm going to express this to you and also to other candidates, the other candidates when I see them, but I feel like something I would really like to see as a Richmond student is more collaboration in terms of how the administration at RCS and the Richmond City Council sort of work in creating the sort of policies that they're making, because I don't see very often, or I don't hear very often, that you don't really get a student voice or a student say in that. And, I'm wondering as to what you think about that.
Yeah, I think there are several committees that are a part of local government. And I think that the seats are not all filled with elected officials. And so, one being the Street Tree Commission, one being, focusing on the Richmond Airport. I think that you're the future of the city, and I think that it's like in golf. You never really own the golf balls; you just rent them. And I think that we never really own this city. Our job is to leave it better than we found it. And so I think that having the more experienced individuals that have been here for a very long time that can speak to the things that have happened in the past is equally important to those that we are preparing the right-of-way for in the future. So I think that as time allows and as the Richmond Community Schools Administration sees fit with the curriculum, I think it's crucial. And I love how some of our local organizations, not necessarily the school system, but that there are these opportunities inside of like Boys and Girls Clubs of Wayne County where they're able to go over to the State House and kind of see how some of these things work. And so to be able to provide that same experience on the local level, I know that oftentimes we either talk about or we neglect to talk about climate change. And so I'm only here for probably a shorter time than you are. And so it's important that, we are setting policies and being responsible for those that come after us too. And so I think it's important that that all that want to be a part of it have the opportunity.
That's great.
So, Justin, we are approaching our time, and I want to be respectful of your time. So I'm going to let each young adult ask you one more question, and then I'm going to let you kind of give your final, overall perspective on why you're running and what you're going to do for the city. So, Kevin, you're up.
So earlier I asked you about the schools, and now I'm going to switch it up and ask you, can you explain your stance on promoting diversity, inclusion, and equality within our community? Yeah.
Well, I think that's important, and I think that, certainly on the national level, over the last few years, we've seen some horrifying clips, videos of things that are happening in other communities. And I think that we always can maybe hope that those kind of things would never transpire here. But in order for that to be true, we need to work on that daily. Mm-hmm. I was blessed to come up in Richmond playing sports, and with that blessing and with Richmond, I played alongside of and was raised alongside of every background and nationality and race, and so I felt very blessed that when I went off to school, that I had that opportunity to learn from others that weren't like me. I think that it has to be a commitment from not only the city administration. That's a commitment that we don't just talk about, but we actually make sure that there are policies in place that, we are inclusive and not excluding anybody. So I think that it's something that's always been very important to me. It's something that's important in hiring practices, in business, and it's something that, I take that very seriously. And I think that diversity is what makes Richmond special, and I never want to lose that. And being on Seton School Board a few years back, I know that Seton is an incredible school, incredible learning environment. But we talked a lot about diversity because the students there can learn so much with a diverse classroom, and I think that's very important. And I think that no matter where you are in school, business, at a local event, we're all one, and we need to not only say that, but we need to practice that too.
I guess I'll ask my question, and I'm going to go ahead and merge a couple things. But how do you plan to improve public transportation for those that maybe can't afford a car or that sort of thing? And also in terms of transportation, how do you plan to address affordable housing in the city of Richmond?
Yeah, that's a loaded two-part question.
You can go ahead and answer the first part then. How do you plan on improving public transportation?
Yeah. Well, so starting with transportation is expensive. And no matter if you're in private business, if you're in nonprofit, in order to give services or have services for others, they have to be able to get there first and foremost. So to be able to service buses, tires, oil changes, Again, with Seton, we experienced this with our athletics and field trips. That comes at a significant cost. However, I will say that it's incredibly important because the access to healthcare, the access to our library system, to be able to have access to internet. I think sometimes simple-minded, you think, well, you don't really need a car. You can walk but then that's when things start to not be addressed. Being able to get to a job, get to school. So I think that's a very, very complex issue, and it's something that, if elected for city council, also with the work of the city administration, you have to plan for those things, and those things are never fun to plan for. But I think that you got to set that money aside because it's necessary. The housing question is equally complex, but like transportation is equally important, because one component to that is this component of safety as well. And in my background with different nonprofits and such, not everybody has a warm bed to sleep in. Not everybody has 3 meals a day and a cell phone and things like that. So when you look at it from the perspective of someone else that's has a hard time, we have to work together to look at the resources that are available. And we need to be able to put those resources together and work in collaboration with the landlords. I had read a post recently, or not so recently, almost accusatory towards landlords. Some landlords are really, really good landlords. And some of the quote-unquote slumlords are significantly in the minority. But what we need to do from that perspective is we need accountability, and we need to hold those that are breaking the rules accountable. But we need to put our heads together as city administration, city council, and we need to find good, affordable housing for our residents here, because homelessness is a problem. Safety is a problem. And if we can get our people in a safe housing situation and have safe, reliable transportation, things are going to go a whole lot better for our city in the future.
All righty. Thank you, Justin. As we are approaching the end of our podcast, please leave us with anything you want to leave us with. I know that one of the things that you have mentioned is that you want transparent and servant leadership, and you want to be that voice. The other thing that I read is that you want to give all citizens throughout our diverse city a voice when it comes to our community. And we really appreciate you sharing these thoughts with us. Can you please give the folks out there your last pitch before the election?
Well, first, make sure you subscribe to the podcast.
Yes.
Slam that subscribe button.
Out of the mouth of babes.
Out of the mouth of babes. Right now. Wait. Okay. Voting is important. Voting has consequences, and you need to be educated on those that are running on the ballot. You need to feel good, and you need to get out and you need to vote. That's the most important thing. I'm running for city council because I believe in Richmond. Richmond gave me endless opportunities, and this is my opportunity to take care of those that have given me so much. This is my opportunity to take care of those that have so little. This is my opportunity to give the next generation a Richmond that people want to be in and live in. And that's not going to happen overnight, but we need to embrace the resources and the good people and the good things we have here. And then we just got to get to work on some of the things that we want to change. But first and foremost, we've got the people here to do it, and we have incredible people. So I ask for your vote, and I can't wait to get to work for you if elected.
Thank you, Justin. And again, the podcast, Out of the Mouth of Babes. Also want to kind of mention that Justin just mentioned that he bought Warm Glow. So please go out there and purchase some candles and some oils and all of the above and all of the above. So I want to make sure we get that out. Also, check out the Impact Youth Center, which is one of the newest community-based organizations for teens in Richmond, where we house Club Impact Wrestling. We also house Wayne County Writers, the poetry group, chess club. We also have basketball training, and we'd love for you all to come check it out, 717 South 5th Street. This is Out of the Mouth of Babes, a podcast for our youth. Thank you. Welcome to Out of the Mouth of Babes, the podcast for our future leaders. Today, we have a very special guest in the house, Miss Claudia Edwards. Claudia is running for Richmond Common Council at large, one of the Democratic candidates. There are 3 of them, and we've met all of them within the last couple days. But before we start, let's let these students introduce themselves and what they're involved in. Then Claudia is going to give her bio to all of us. So starting off.
My name is Kevin Jr. I'm a 12th grader at Richmond High School. I wrestle, play football. I'm part of the RHS Green Club and the Wayne County Riders.
My name is Kira Hanley. I'm a junior at Richmond High School, part of the Richmond basketball team, the golf team, Wayne County Riders, the RDMs at Richmond, and the Radiate Bible Study Group.
Just all on you, Claudia. Who are you? We see you everywhere. We see your name. Everywhere we go, there's a Claudia sighting. Talk to us a little bit about you.
Thank you for having me here this morning. What a pleasure to be here with you guys and with these young students who are very bright. My name is Claudia Edwards, and I am running for Richmond City Council at large. I'm very excited to have this opportunity to represent our community. And a little bit about me, I'm originally from Peru, South America. I grew up on the coast surfing, and I went to a Catholic school with nuns, only girls, and grew up in a military family. And so it was very structured, to say the least, but I believe that was a part of my foundation, and I owe my work ethic to that and to my grandfather, who was a big military personality in Peru. His father was also military, but they gave us that strong foundation and the strong work ethic. I have been in the U.S. for 25 years now. I had the opportunity to and worked very hard for my citizenship, and it was a very long process. It was also very costly, but I'm glad and proud that I am a U.S. citizen, and I'm very involved with our country, and in my community. I believe that what we can do for our country begins within our community. I am a mom. My son graduated a couple of years ago from Seton Catholic High School, and he is 18 now. He started his second year at Trine University. He studies engineering and physics there, and he's doing wonderfully. I have two brothers who we are very close with. We did a lot of sports growing up. We're very health, fitness oriented, very family, community oriented. And that's part of the reason why I get involved so much anywhere I live, right? I've been in Richmond, in Indiana for the last approximately 20 years. And ever since I became involved with the community, I'm a graduate from IU East. I was a non-traditional student, which means that you're an adult and you already have some work experience. You have, at the time I was a single mom, and it was a struggle because I had no family in Indiana. So I was going to school and working and raising a little boy. But I wouldn't change that for the world. I believe that that was also what gave me some of the strength to work and to move on. And I had someone, a little life to raise and support and do for. So I graduated with a degree in psychology and criminal justice. And what inspired me to get a degree in psychology and criminal justice was working with children. And the mental health aspect of children's life and the way that that impacts their development and their future. So I enjoyed a lot going through my degree at IU East. And since then, and before then, regarding my work experience, I began working on an assembly line at Calvin Klein in the East Coast. And we made perfumes. So we bottled, boxed, and did the whole assembly part of the job. And so quickly I was promoted to supervisor assistant. And when I first started the job, I didn't speak the language. So within 9 months, I was already having fluent conversations, and I believe I proved myself, reason why they gave me an opportunity to, show other skills and gain other skills. And then shortly after that, I was promoted again to manage a billion-dollar client, which was Menon, a Fortune 500 client in the East Coast. And I did manage 150 employees at the time. I was still very young. And so I have since then worked in a variety of fields. And my most recent work is in the nonprofit sector. I volunteer in our community through different nonprofit organizations. And I help with anything that I have skills on, like graphic design, or even hands-on volunteer time. So I go to Gateway or to Gleaners, food distribution, and we package food, and we spend a couple of hours there, waiting in line for people to come through, and we provide them with food, and it's a really good experience. I work during that time with so many individuals of our community who get there on time, and they're happy and they're excited and to get their work done and to help those in need in Richmond and beyond. And so I have, now that my son is in college, I have more time for myself. And so I decided that I wanted to continue to give back to the community. And this time it's just going to be in a different role. I want to give a voice to those that are not able to share their experience or their needs with the local administration. I want to kind of bridge the gap between the local administration and the community through communication and collaboration. And with the my budget management and development experience, I hope that I can contribute to the current budget job responsibility for City Council at large. So I'm very excited to be here, and that's a little bit about me. And I know that the resume is pretty lengthy, but if you have any more questions, I'll be happy to answer those.
Kevin, Kiara?
Okay, so my first question is, if elected, how will you use your new status to advocate for affordable housing in Richmond?
So, well, first of all, I think that city council or any other local government position is not so much as a status. I want to make sure that people look at it as a public service position. And when we agree or make the decision to run as a candidate for a public office, that we know that we are committed to serve our community, not just as a job or not just as a status or just as a position. So we're here to serve. And that's something that I have been doing for years through the nonprofit sector and volunteering work. As far as housing goes, it's something that I have been doing research on. I know that our community is facing a challenge with housing. We need more accessibility. We need more opportunities for housing. And one of the things that I've learned through my time doing the research on the budget for the city and working with within the community is that within our budget, we have actual dollars that are earmarked for demolition for some of the blight that we have in our community. So I would like to see some of those dollars invested in rehabilitating some of those buildings. So it would take some sort of an assessment to see and identify which buildings are able to be rehabilitated, and then partnering with local businesses to see through the rehabilitation process and project. And so I believe that utilizing those earmarked dollars for demolition and investing in the rehabilitation of some of these buildings, we could not only create housing, but we can also create revenue for our city through the tax dollars that the properties would create. So it's a very win-win situation for the economy of our city, and also for the families, whether are young families that can't afford it, or young professionals, or even individuals who are trying to for the first time work and get on their feet. So I think that this would be a great project, and I'm excited to, and I hope that we can see it happen.
Okay, to piggyback off his last question with affordable housing, how do you plan to improve public transportation and reduce traffic congestion?
So I'm glad you asked that question. We actually, or I say we because we're trained when you work in the nonprofit world, that you're a team, and we are a team. But personally, I just went through a couple of weeks ago. I did a kind of a project for myself. So it was kind of like a social experiment. I was fasting for about 13 or 14 hours. So I hadn't eaten since the day before. And in the afternoon, I walked to, first I wanted to find out how the transportation bus worked and the city bus worked. So what I did was I called to see where do I go buy tickets or a bus pass. So I figured out where I went. It was in the city clerk and in the administration building. So what I did was I fasted for about 13 or 14 hours and walked to the city building, navigated through the building to find the city clerk, and asked where do I get tickets? How does that work? How much does it cost? And so I ended up buying a couple of tickets because, and what I had planned was buying a pass and maybe giving it away to someone. But I learned a great deal through this process. I wanted to put myself in the shoes of the individuals who most of the time are using these buses. A lot of times, they're homeless individuals, or they are going through some sort of financial struggle. And a lot of times these individuals don't have the opportunity to eat throughout the day because they're running around, whether it's because they don't have the funds to do so, or because they don't have the time. They're trying to survive, right? They're struggling. So I wanted to put myself in their shoes. And so that's why I fasted and walked to the city building. Through the conversation with the city clerk, in the city clerk's office, they were very helpful there. They had a map that they provided me with. They explained to me the routes, and then they gave me prices on the monthly passes and then the individual tickets. I learned that you have to put your name on the pass. So I was not able to buy the pass because I wouldn't use it. So I didn't want to, my plan was to give it away, and I wasn't able to do that. So I got a couple of tickets. I learned that they also have a map or instructions in Spanish, because we do have a large Hispanic population in Richmond. So I was glad to see that they went the extra mile and made an effort to serve other constituents of Richmond who speak Spanish. And one of the things that I would do that I learned throughout this process was they are short on drivers. And because of that, they've had to cut a couple of routes. So they took away some of the roads that they normally drive by because they don't have enough drivers. So what I am doing now personally is I'm still researching, because we want to have strategic plan that is going to be effective. So we need to spend time to find the right ways to accomplish what we want to see. So we need more drivers. It takes a CDL driving certification. So we have to make sure that we find out where that's being offered, how much that costs, and then try to recruit some drivers so that we can expand the routes, not only to the point where it was before, but go beyond and reach out more of the area of our city, and then hopefully expand the hours is what I would like to see. A lot of the schedule that we offer right now for public transportation happens during office hours. Well, during that time, people are working. And so I would like to see transportation happen before that and then after. Individuals want to get off work and sometimes need to go grocery shopping or on the weekends. And so we want to make sure that they have access to our public transportation after they get out of work. So those are some of the things that I would personally try to work on and try to implement with the city of Richmond. And of course, we can't do it without the approval of, and the vote of all the council teams. So I would love to get the support from them and collaborate with them and to see all of these projects get to completion so that we can serve our community better.
Nice. Okay, my next question is, what steps will you take to promote sustainable and environmentally friendly practices within our city?
So sustainability and the environment are something very dear to my heart. Through my time in arts and even just growing up, I became very interested in the environment and the carbon footprint that we create through our daily lives, whether it's through the use of electricity, driving our vehicles, and so forth. So I remember being younger and going throughout the house and turning all the lights off because I knew that not only was that costly, but also that creates the carbon footprint that will affect our environment, in years to come and the generations to come. And now we're at that point where we have to be hands-on and direct and do something about protecting our environment. So I have been advocating for that. I did an art show a few years ago that was at the McDowell Hall and at the Reed Hospital, and it was called Pachamama Healing in Nature. Pachamama is Quechua for Mother Earth, and healing in nature because I believe that Mother Earth and nature heals us and provides us with everything that we need to sustain ourselves. All of our food, the earth, the grounds, it's have healing properties, and including the food that we consume can be healing or it can hurt us. So we want to try to be cognizant of how we treat the environment, how we treat the soil, how much we work the soil, because everything, all of these are natural, limited resources, and we have to keep those things in mind. Right now, Richmond has a great cardboard recycling program that has been a huge success, and I am proud to be a part of or a participant of that program. As soon as that came out, I knew that I wanted to be a part of that. With shopping and the way that shopping has changed so drastically lately, everybody's shopping online. So now we get a lot of boxes, right? We order from either Amazon or any other online stores, and we get everything we order, sometimes even double or triple boxed. So we're creating so much waste that it was, truly a no-brainer for Richmond to get on board and take care of our city better. The landfill has probably around 30 years left, so we need to start thinking about what are we going to do when the life of the landfill expires. How are we going to continue to consume and transport all the waste that we create to the landfill? And so by thinking of ways in which we can reduce our waste, that would lengthen the life of the landfill. So I know that I'm running with a wonderful slate of candidates on the Democratic ticket. Ronit Nair is a huge supporter of the environment, and we've talked about this before. And Mayor Snow has also been a huge proponent to come up with other projects that would help lengthen the life of the landfill. So it is definitely on my list of things that we need to be addressing.
All right, Kiara, we have about a couple of more questions for you. Kiara, you're up. You got the last two.
The last two questions?
Yes.
Okay. How will you support local businesses and encourage economic growth in our community?
So one of the things that we have all been doing, not just me, in our community, especially that came and was born from the pandemic, is that we knew that restaurants would be hurt by that because we couldn't go out. There was the food contamination concern, and so we knew that we had to do everything that we could to address that concern and to help and support local businesses. So we were one of those families that were ordering takeout almost on their daily basis for dinner and lunch from different businesses. And that's something that, was happening before that. But I believe that it's increased, the support has increased and grown, and now it's carried out, beyond the pandemic. I shop local. I have a lot of public meetings. So I make sure that I do my tour around the city and I visit all the restaurants. I'm an advocate for local business owners. So I make sure that I create referrals and I talk to friends that are coming into town to visit. Or if somebody says, I have a mom friend that says, I need shoes for my kids. We have Edsmond shoes. What are some ways that we don't only just, reach in our pockets to give, but we need to promote each other. We need to promote the businesses that we have in Richmond. We need to support the individuals who are behind the economic growth of our city, because all of these businesses are tax-paying businesses, so they support us as well. So we have to have that collaboration and work together to help with that economic growth. And then personally, I have been working in the last year on opening up a cultural center for the arts here, hopefully in downtown, which would have in addition to art classes, a gallery, but it's also going to be a destination. And I want to bring artists from outside of Indiana so that we can put Richmond on the map, because they have their connections and their constituents. So they will begin talking about Richmond, and they would hopefully bring people into our city, which also translates into more spending coming into our city. And so it is going to be a personal investment of mine, and I have the business plan completed. Now we're in the phase of working on the building and such. But as a city council person, what I would do is try to diversify the businesses that we bring into town, so that we can create jobs and we can diversify our economic growth.
Okay, last question. Can you explain your stance on promoting diversity, inclusion, and equality within our community?
That's something also that I'm very passionate about. I'm Hispanic heritage. I have my family's literally all over the world. Out of all the places that I could live, Greece, Switzerland, Spain, South America, I chose Richmond, and I'm proud of our community and the work that we do here, and our people as well. So I have that experience through travel and through my family. I think that's important for a long number of reasons. It strengthens our economic growth and expands the economic growth. It helps the businesses grow from within, because we have different perspectives and different ways of seeing the way we work, and we bring different skills and experiences. And so I think that that's very important for our city's growth, to have diversity. And so I think that through my family and the people that I know, even within the U.S. and the East and West Coast, I promote the cost of living here and the quality of life that we hear with the arts, and the low tax property taxes that we have in Richmond. So I tried to invite people to come and visit. I've had family come from France and from Peru and from different areas of the U.S., and they've come to love it. There's people buying land and properties now here. And so I think that by being a diverse community, which we are, but growing that diversity can make our Richmond better.
Well, thank you, Claudia. Thank you for spending your time with us this morning.
Absolutely.
Very insightful, as I've said. We've noticed that, you've been out and hitting the campaign trail. And election is tomorrow.
It's tomorrow. One more day.
One more day. So what will you like to say as your last elevator speech to the people out there?
So I want to encourage everyone to get to the polls. I know that that's been, so many of us get frustrated or jaded with the way the the political arena turns out to be. But I believe that should not take away from our civic duty and our civic engagement. It is our responsibility to continue to vote. I know that there are approximately 21,000 registered voters, and around 25% of them vote. Wow. So that margin is absolutely way too low. We need better representation. We need more individuals to get to the polls. And not so much, of course, I would like the support of our voters and constituents, and I would love to receive your votes. But I just want to emphasize the importance of civic duty and engagement. And so I want to ask everyone to get to the polls tomorrow. It does impact you, it does impact your family, and it does impact the quality of life and the future of your family in a variety of ways. So many people think that local elections are not as important, but they're the foundation of the way our country will develop. And so I cannot emphasize enough, please get to the polls, please exercise your right to vote. It is imperative that you get to the polls and vote.
Well, thank you, Claudia. This has been very enlightening for us. It's been very enlightening for the students. Thank you for coming to Out of the Mouth of Babes, the podcast for our future leaders. We appreciate your time. We appreciate you, and good luck.
Thank you. And, thank you for having me.
And if there's anything we can do to help, please let us know. Out of the Mouth of Babes, the podcast for our future leaders. Welcome to Out of the Mouth of Babes, the podcast for our future leaders. Today, we have a very special guest in the house. He is running for city council at large, Mr. Jerry Purcell. But before I turn it over to Mr. Purcell, I want the students to introduce themselves, and then he's going to give us some insight on who he is, where he's from, and all of the above.
My name is Kira Hanley. I go to Richmond High School. I am a junior, and I am in the varsity basketball team. I have my own clothing line business. Yeah.
I'm Xavier Ogle. I also go to the high school. I'm a junior. I'm involved in, I run cross country and track, and I play basketball. I'm in the Green Club at the high school, and I'm a RDM, which is a Red Devil mentor, and part of the, I'm trying to think of the name right now. Anyway, it's basically a group that we help set up the sports stuff. But
Bleacher Creature.
Yeah.
And I'm also put a little shameless plug in there. They're also members of the Wayne County Writers, which is a poetry group that they're both involved in.
Yeah.
And also Kiara's a golfer, and Xavier, you did say cross country, and they both do. She's also a member of the after school Bible study program. Radiate, and so they're extra involved, and so we're excited because I know they got a lot of questions from Mr. Purcell. Mr. Purcell, please talk to us a little bit about who you are.
Absolutely. First, I want to congratulate these two students because future leaders is what we need, and we need our youth involved. So thank you very much. I'm Jerry Purcell. Many of people know me as Chief. I went to Ball State University, graduated from Richmond, have been a lifelong resident of Richmond. I studied fine art and architecture at Ball State University and was a teaching major. After doing my participation, I decided that teaching probably wasn't the career I was looking for. And so I came home and applied for the Richmond Fire Department. It was 10 years later before I got hired on the department. So during that time, I managed a few businesses and continued a business education. Once on the department, I loved it. I love it to this day. I worked the back of an engine as a firefighter for 12 years. I then became a chief officer and served 26 years of my career as a chief officer, and the last 9 as chief of the Richmond Fire Department.
All right, so one of the things we want to talk to you a little bit about is I don't think a lot of people understand or know what it means to be on city council and what your actual role is to be on city council. So, students, even in your questions that you're asking, he's going to explain to you a little bit about what that means and then tailor your questions for that. So,
Very good. City council is would be similar to the Congress as opposed to the presidency. The mayor is more like the president, to put it in simple terms. What the city council does is it approves the financial side, the budget, and also writes and votes on ordinances that would be equivalent to the laws of our city. And that's basically the job of the city council.
So starting off, Xavier, you want to go first?
Yeah, so I know you've been really involved in, Richmond for, most of your life. So what made you want to run for, what was it again?
City council at
Councilman?
large.
Council large, is that what it is?
Yes. At large means that the whole city votes on us. There's district council members, 6 of them, and 3 at-large members for a total of 9.
Thank you.
I'm running because, number one, is I think I still have something left to give. I had to retire from the fire department because I aged out at 70 years of age after 39 years. I have, as you said, been involved throughout my life with the city, mentoring in the schools, creating a fire safety program for kids. You may have gone through it at Safety Village, the fire program. I built the smokehouse there and developed that program early in my career. And so I've been very involved in the community, obviously, throughout the years. And I just think that I can continue to serve with what I've learned and the wisdom that I've gleaned through all these years.
Thank you.
Okay, I have a question. How can you explain your stance on promoting diversity, inclusion, and equality within our community?
Well, that's a great question. First of all, I think that all people are created equal. That's pretty simple. You're a student of religion, as I heard, and I am a Catholic, lifelong, and so inclusion just comes naturally. We're all the same, So I don't think that there's a big special way of inclusion other than the fact that we treat each other equally and that we make sure that we get everyone involved.
Okay. So you said you went to Ball State. So what are your feelings about college, and do you feel kids should go or should not go?
That's a question that I feel very strongly about. I don't know if you're aware of the high school fire program, the careers program. My administration started that program, and that's for kids that aren't necessarily going to college. I was an academic student, but I also took wood shop and metal shop, and having all those skill sets are the reason I was able to raise and take care of a family and always have a job. So I think not everyone's cut out. There's only so many lawyers, so many doctors, so many teachers. So I think that for some students it's very important that they continue the education, but I think it's also very important that we have a robust career program in the high school that teaches hands-on type of education and prepares students maybe for immediate placement after high school. And that's what our high school fire program is all about. It's an EMS and a firefighting course over the junior and senior years, and it's been very successful.
Yes, a lot of my friends also take those classes, and I've heard they liked it a lot.
I'm very proud of the program, very proud.
So what do you want to get done, the council at large?
Council at large, I think that we need to start working on getting the city cleaned up, work on the some stats show lowering crime, but I don't see it. I see more petty theft, et cetera, throughout the city. And I think we need to work on that. But mainly, I want to see us put a master plan in place that we follow so that from administration to administration, we have a roadmap to continue so we don't waste funds and time, that we have a plan laid out. That's what I did for the fire department, and that's what I plan to do on city council, is lay out a plan for the future. and at the same time pass ordinances such as the shuttering ordinance that cleans up our neighborhoods.
Okay, how do we keep our youth involved in a way that makes them realize their role in building a community?
Well, first of all, more youth programs and mentoring programs, bringing our youth into the planning process. I talked about a master plan. I think that youth leadership should be involved in that plan because it affects them and their future. I think more programs where I know that I've got a grandson that recently set in with the prosecuting attorney, and it was mentored there in some of his interest in law. And I think that our leaders of our community need to step up and work with the future leaders of our community and get them involved.
Yeah, so I know you mentioned the stuff about how you've included stuff in the high school. So how do you think are ways we can encourage the youth to stay local after they graduate?
Well, a big part of it, I think, is immediate placement after school through the careers programs. The other thing is to create a community that the kids want to be part of, to create a community where they feel like they're a part of it, so they don't feel like they have to leave Richmond to be part of a community. And I think we also need to create a lot more things for our youth to do and be involved in. Fun things. I am an outside-the-box person, and I think the worst 8 words put together are, that's the way we've always done it.
How do we provide an affordable and like good housing for people with less like resources and things like that? And how do you think that differs from the past?
Well, first of all of the above. I was one of 2 of the founding members for Habitat Humanity in our community. Many years ago, Etta Lundy and I started that in memory of a council member that had passed away. And it turned into Habitat for Humanity. They've built around 100 homes for families now that qualify. And I think that program is a great program. That's done without public funding. It's done with grants and private donations. Then, of course, we have the low-income housing projects, which HUD funds. I think the city on the next one in the Nicholson district is going to be partially funded by the city, and then also then probably HUD's funds through the Richmond Housing Authority. But the main thing is that I differ is I don't think these should be permanent solutions for everybody to put them out somewhere in low-income housing and say, there you go. You know, in my world, we provide social work services and job mentoring services to get people prepared for better jobs, to help people with addictions and other social issues, and prepare them to move on in their life and open up so we don't have to keep building these subsidized housing units.
Okay, I have a really big question. What's one thing you like about Richmond? Like, why Richmond?
Why Richmond?
Yep.
Because I'm very proud of our history. We have a tremendous history with the Quakers in this community. I don't know if you're aware of our history when it comes to the Underground Railroad and being part of the movement of freeing slaves from the South, our music history. My brother was in the recording business, and he always took our music history with him. So our music history, our history as a Quaker community, and our arts. I'm amazed at our arts here. Our symphony. I've been a member and going to the symphony for over 20 years. Our art museum is amazing. As an art major, I can tell you that it's very impressive. I always, when I travel, go to other art museums and other symphonies, and ours stands right up with any of them. And so that's what I love about Richmond, is there's so many possibilities and so much to build on.
Do you believe there needs to be more attraction in Richmond to make things seem more fun for the youth?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I was just with my grandson all day yesterday. It was his birthday, so he hung out with Papaw. And he said he's probably got the craziest Papaw of anyone in his class because I like to have fun. And I want to bring back the Pinewood Derby. I've already been in touch with the people on the Grand Boulevard. You all probably aren't familiar with that.
No.
But when I was growing up, there was Pinewood Derby races. You can look it up on Grand Boulevard coming out of the park and down Grand Boulevard. I raced in high school, go-karts, and then later I road raced cars. Like I said, I've done a little bit of everything. And I want to bring the go-kart Grand Prix back to Richmond, Indiana. I want to see us develop the gorge in a way that there's kayaking, canoeing, et cetera, in the gorge by raising the river level with another dam down by Test Road. So, yeah, our parks are amazing, our arts are amazing, and we need to work on those foundations and build up from there.
How confident are you that you can fulfill your goals with your term?
I'm pretty confident. I came into a fire department that at the time I got the call, I was in Tennessee. To come home, it was because the fire department was getting ready to close 2 stations and lay off 20 men. I came back, and after 9 years, I had a extremely large amount of reserve cash in the bank. I had taken us off of the capital budget so that we were buying all of our own capital, and I was able to remodel firehouses and replace all of our equipment, and also start meeting all NFPA standards. So I think applying that same outside the box, living within the budget restraints, but being creative in how we find other additional funding, that we can get these things done.
Xavier?
Let's see. How do you think we can keep our youth involved in building their community as well? Because I know you mentioned some things like racing. So do you have any other ideas?
Well, like I said, fun things for the kids to do, and also make them feel like they're part of the planning process. We have to put a master plan together. It's just that simple for the community. Same thing I did with the fire department, with apparatus replacement plans, et cetera, et cetera. We have to have a plan in place, because if not, every time there's election, everyone's recreating the wheel. Mm-hmm. So we put those plans in place, and we involve the youth in making those plans, because this is their future home, and they're our future leaders.
One more question for you. So you said you had some creative ways to find funding. So what are some ways that you think that will be a way that you can do that for the community?
Grants, first of all, increasing the value of our downtown buildings, because I'm really well versed and very much so I want to promote our downtown, our historic business districts, because if not, we're going to end up with a bunch of buildings that have to be torn down. And some of the ideas I have for that is getting grants, et cetera. Going back to the model of distribution of those grants and matching grants, that makes the money go twice as far. This is just one example. Putting in sprinkler system infrastructures so that all the floors of the downtown buildings can be used for commerce, not just the lower floor. What that does is makes it so that any occupancy can move into those upper floors. I see housing in our upper floors. And what that does is increase the use of all the buildings, the values of all the buildings, which means that we collect more tax off the buildings, et cetera. And those tax dollars can come in and help us to move forward. Anytime you have a one-time large amount of influx of cash, you should do something that doesn't have a sustaining cost to it, and that increases your tax base in some manner. And so those are some of the ideas. There's so many facets to the city of Richmond and so many things we need to work on. But we can get there, working together.
Okay. What initiatives or policies will you prioritize to address homelessness in our city?
That's also something I've been involved with. I make it a point to interview whenever they'll talk to you. A lot of homeless people will not discuss things with you. Last year, we put together a committee to have an emergency warming shelter during the coldest of days. That has not come to fruition yet. I hope that we get that done this year. But mainly, first, before you can address any problem, you've got to know the true cause of the problem, not what everyone assumes the problem is. And you can only do that by talking to the people that are homeless in town. Some of them, they want to be that way. That's the way they want to live. Some have fallen out with their families. Some have addiction problems and other mental issues. And that's one of the reasons that, as strange as it sounds, that in our fire department, my team and I put in place a social worker program and community paramedicine program. that unties the police officer's hands at scenes when they're dealing with homeless, et cetera, and immediately calls for a social worker to come and start working with those individuals to see if we can help them. So those type of initiatives growing into the future, I think also then putting in place, as I said, social workers, job mentoring, et cetera, at our low-income housing projects. I just don't see anything that we should accept anything as a permanent solution.
So what do you want to build off of the previous, council in large person? Like, what do you want to build off of what has been?
Well, the person whose seat I'm running for is running for mayor. And what I hope to be able to do is be as financially wise as he was. I think I will be in what I've done with the fire department. And also he mentored me some when I was developing the business model under which the fire department changed to create the success that we created. But mainly to be fiscally responsible, as the members before me on at-large have been, but yet to look outside of the tax dollars for ways of creating new initiatives for our city.
What measures will you implement to ensure the safety of our neighborhoods and reduce crime rates?
Well, we don't have a lot to do with that, but I will say that as like a former fire chief, I do know that there's grants, et cetera, out there, but I think that we have to create initiatives and we have to get more police officers. We have to get hired up first. And that's one of the big problems right now is we're down, last I heard, around 15 officers. And so that makes it so that it's hard to do community policing, et cetera. On the fire department, we were going down that road, and I started the high school program, as you know, which now we are always hired up. We have a base there to hire from. Now, I had to do a couple of unique things. I had to lower the hiring age. Usually the fire department's at 21. Well, between 18 and 21, you're going to lose those people that you train. So we dropped our hiring age to 18. I'm not sure the police can do that, but I would look at things like maybe some type of a cadet program within the police department, some training in high school to get the kids to want to stay here. The other problem is when we train, especially fire and police officers, they become a commodity. Cities are all looking hard for police and firefighters. So if you don't pay them well, number one, if you don't hire locally, if at all possible, once you create that commodity, they go elsewhere. And I like the fact that I've heard over and over, well, they get paid pretty well for our economy in Richmond. We're not competing with other cities with our economy. We're competing with every city in the state, and we have to remember that. And so you can either spend all the money retraining, and having green police and firefighters, green in the sense of young and inexperienced, or you can invest in keeping them here. So I think that will help with our city and the safety, et cetera, is to get officers hired up and to keep them here.
Two more questions off the sheet. Kiara, then Xavier.
Xavier
And then we'll let
first.
Mr. Purcell then give us kind of his elevator speech.
Let's see. So, how do you plan? I know you said you plan to involve the students in the decision-making process. So, how do you plan to do that?
Through youth leadership programs. You two are great candidates for that from what I heard in your introductions. You're involved. You know that there's more out there than just going and sitting in the classroom. You're involved in athletics. You're involved in volunteer your time to set up, I heard, for other sporting events, et cetera. So I was in youth leadership, and I was on student council, et cetera. But to get those students more involved at the real level and mentoring them, and the real level being city council and planning for the future, doing the master plan, and getting them involved with our local business leaders as well, and setting in with those business leaders as they do their job and make their decisions, and get them up to speed. So when they get out of school, they love our community, they're involved in our community, and believe me, at 70, I shouldn't be running for city council. I should see a 40-year-old or a 30-year-old or a 25-year-old running for city council, and that's what I hope.
Okay. last question would be your overall end goal for the city council.
Well, I'll have to see at the end of 4 years what I've been able to accomplish and how we've developed more interest with our youth in running for office, et cetera, and make a decision then. But I'm going to set a goal for 4 years of changing the direction of things and mentoring some young people into the dirty word of politics. I don't like that word because of the connotations people tie to that word, but it's not a bad thing unless you make it a bad thing. It's just a reality of how we elect our officials, et cetera. And so therefore, I want to go in, lay out a master plan for future leaders, and start developing those leaders and getting young people involved.
All righty. Well, thank you for your time. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to talk with you and sharing some of your ideas. Thank you for the students. And we would love to help out in any way. We'd love to get the students involved. Thank you for coming out of the Mouth of Babes, the podcast for your future leaders. Welcome to Out of the Mouth of Babes, the podcast for our future leaders. Today we have a very special guest in the house, Mr. Ron Itmeyer. Ron, as you know, is running for the Democrat City Council at large. But before I turn it over to Ron, I'm going to have the two students that are here with us introduce themselves, what they're interested in, what grade they're in, and then we're going to turn it over to Ron. So starting with you.
My name's Meadow Bain. I'm a 12th grader at Richmond High School. I'm interested in all sorts of art and just creating anything that comes to mind, really.
My name is Yuvraj Prajapati. I go to the Richmond High School. I'm in 10th grade, and my interests are like music and making music.
All right. Now, Mr. Ron, tell us a little bit about you and your background, where you're from, all of the above.
My name is Dr. Ron Itmeyer, but please call me Ron. I was raised on a farm in Illinois, went to the University of Illinois, and ended up getting a degree in genetics and then a degree in plant pathology, so dead plants. As a kind of aside, my mother-in-law asked, so what's wrong with this plant? And it's, well, it's sick. It's like, well, what should I do for it? And I'm like, just get a new one. My wife and I moved here in 1999 when she got a job at Indiana University East. I worked in the industry for seed corn industry for 10 years before I moved to teaching at Indiana University East, where I teach biology, introductory biology, microbiology, things along those lines. Have been very active in the community. We raised our daughter here. She graduated from Richmond High School in 2020 as part of the unfortunate COVID class that lost their graduation to COVID. She's currently a junior at Indiana University in Bloomington, studying environmental science, and we're so very proud of her and the accomplishments that she's was able to do here, going through the Richmond Community Schools and graduating from the high school. Been involved in the general community, Richmond Civic Theater. I've lost track of how many shows I've been involved with, and also have served on several community boards. Currently, I'm on the Street Tree Commission. I've served as the president of that board for several times. Been on there since 2005, and I'm also on the County Solid Waste Recycle Board. Has served as the chair of that as well. So kind of fits into that passion that I have for the environment. So,
all righty. Well, we're going to turn it over to the students, and please start asking questions. Make sure you guys are close up on the mic.
So, what specific plans do you have to address affordable housing in our city?
Affordable housing. One of the things that I would like to kind of follow along with the mayor is working on a plan to bring back what was known as the Human Rights Commission, to be able to address and be able to work with community members to address the issues that they're having in their housing. It would be nice, and I haven't figured out the exact way of addressing this per se, but if an individual is able to buy a house that's in a moderately dilapidated condition that could be working with repairs, if they put the money into the repairs, what would happen, unfortunately, is the value of the house would go up, their taxes would go up, and they probably couldn't afford to stay there. If there would be a tax holiday, a property tax holiday that would allow them to keep investing in repairing that house, rebuilding the house, to making it livable for them, that would be a way of encouraging home ownership as in an affordable setting. And that is a very, very, how shall I say, challenging issue that it wouldn't take just one council member. It would have to be, the entire group that would have to be working on that.
What initiatives and or policies would you prioritize to address homelessness in our city?
Again, kind of a continuing on with that question is working to have affordable housing, so that there would be the options for individuals that don't have the financial means to, afford more expensive housing. Realistically, there might be some zoning issues that could be done from the city level, but a lot of this is independent financial institutions, businesses that would be running those situations, but making the opportunities available for as many people as possible would be one of the things that I would encourage.
So how will you work towards improving access to healthcare services for all residents, especially those in more marginalized communities?
Another very good question. Again, thinking about it from the standpoint of the city council, there wouldn't be a lot that would be able to be done within that. The main job of the city council is to address budgets. The mayor puts together a budget, city council approves or votes against it, may be able to make some changes to it. The benefit that Richmond has is the state has put together an initiative that is putting a lot of money into the Wayne County Health Department. So expanding medical options and medical opportunities for individuals to get some of the health care that they really desperately need. And I know there are so many individuals that just don't have the available health care that they so justly need. Again, probably in the role as a city council, it would be more of advocating for more of those opportunities for as many individuals, many of the residents of Richmond and Wayne County as possible.
Can you explain your stance on promoting diversity, inclusion, and equality within our community?
I am a strong proponent of diversity. I actually just came from an interfaith gathering out at First Friends meeting this afternoon. That's where I was just immediately before this. As they mentioned at this, there are probably there was a video that was shown, and there were individuals from at least 38 nations were involved with that. Richmond, and that one of the presenters said there are probably 38 nations represented in Richmond, and that diversity should be and is a strength of this community. And so I would do anything that I possibly could to help recognize that, honor it, expand it as best as I could in a role as a city council member.
So could you explain your strategy or plans for improving the education and providing equal opportunities for all students?
One of the things, again, city council doesn't really have anything to do with what's going on in the school district. In my recent past, I actually ran for Richmond's Community School Board, was first runner-up. Education is such a crucial part of the future of the city. So more, again, as a role as an advocate to improve as best we can public education in the city of Richmond is vital for the economic and diversity issue for the entire city. So there wouldn't be anything directly within the realm of what's with the what a city council member would be doing, but you could be sure that I would be a strong advocate for that.
How do you plan to engage with the youth population and involve them in more in decision-making processes that affect their future?
I am amazed and I'm pleased to find out about this podcast. It's important for our future for individuals and finding out about individuals like yourselves that are doing these kind of podcasts. So I would actually come back to you and say, when can I meet with you? What can where can we do to get you more involved? One thing I did think, and it was in there, is have internships. I would encourage the city administration to have internships for what does a mayor do? What does a city council member do? Invite you to meetings and participate in one of the positions that the Richmond City Council is involved is with Richmond Power and Light. Were you aware of that? That the Richmond Power and Light board is actually the city council because we have a public utility here. It is a wonderful asset that the city of Richmond has to have its own electric utility. I've lived here for 24 years, and I believe I've lost power maybe 4 times in that amount of time. I think it is the dedication of the city, or the employees at Richmond Power and Light, with the guidance of the city council board, because they're reporting directly to the people. I'd take you on tours of things like that. Take students on tours of the sewer treatment plant. Take you on tours of the Richmond sanitary landfill to say, here's one of the strengths. We don't have our trash being shipped off. We're working.
I've been to all 4 of those.
Oh, you have been to all 4 of those. Outstanding. I have quite a few of my college students that don't know where they are, so I appreciate you having been there. So, getting students involved as best I can, and through groups like yours.
So this kind of goes along with that. How do we keep our youth involved in a way that makes them realize their role in building the community?
Again, you're playing a part of it right here. My daughter was involved in a variety of things. We encouraged her to participate in various things. You mentioned being involved in interest in the arts. It's one of the strengths of Richmond. So trying to encourage that participation anywhere that I possibly could, I think would be, I would try to do that. I do it with my students at the university, and so would continue doing that with younger groups of students, it sounds like, that are interested. That's nice.
How do you think that we can encourage our young talent to stay local once they graduate high school or their secondary education?
By providing opportunities here. We need to have economic opportunities. We need to have, as the first set of questions that you came up with, housing opportunities. There needs to be a vibrant life for them here to encourage them to either stay for college here or coming back after they have gone to college somewhere else. So it's providing those opportunities are going to be a key part of that.
How do we provide affordable, respectable housing for our citizens of lesser resources, and how does your vision differ from past low-income housing models?
There needs to be, and it's on the books. We have the Human Rights Commission is on the books as being the place where people who are having difficulties with their housing. That's one of the main groups that went through that. It was defunded, I can't remember how many years ago. So it's on the books. It's supposed to be available, but there has not been any funding for it. I would be an advocate for reinstating that in some shape or form so that issues can be addressed. There are wonderful landlords out there. There are wonderful tenants out there. There are some on both sides who are either damaging the property if they're the tenant, or they're not providing adequate resources. I've heard, unfortunately, horror stories of places where they didn't have a front door, or they had holes in the floor, and that is unacceptable. So having those things straightened out needs to be part of what the job of enforcement within the city needs to be.
So, how will you support local businesses and encourage economic growth in our community?
I would support economic initiatives that would, one of the things, and I spoke with a business, he was talking about how difficult it was for parking, that he was having issue, especially during the construction. So targeted construction, if it's city controlled, as I talked a bit before we got on the air, a lot of the construction that's going on lately has been state run, both 9th Street, 8th Street. Before that it was US 40, South A, North A, and now the bridge. Those are all state projects. One of the things we could do within is are there areas where we could improve parking for the local businesses, improve opportunities to bring more people downtown in particular? That's the area that it has been getting a lot of focus in terms of businesses that are seeking support. It's not the only place in town. I mean, there are other places around town where we need to still be able to address what's going on. Support innovation. One of the things, unfortunately, downtown has quite a few buildings that have out-of-state landlords who do not have any businesses. I mean, I've going down the street and going, oh, here's a storefront that doesn't have anything in it, here doesn't have anything. And there are some innovative ways. I've heard that Rushville has an interesting enforcement program to encourage business owners to either have something in there or move on, so that there could be something put into there. We don't necessarily want to be just a tax write-off for somebody in another state with an empty building here. So some of the businesses would benefit by having every storefront full, which would then encourage people to come downtown, which would then, nice mix of, support of the industry or support of the businesses with what's going on in terms of the shoppers and so forth. Also, with the opening of the rooms above the secret ingredient, there are some nice apartments that are up there. There is a long-term vision of getting housing in this area so that there are clients. Oh, I want to get a bagel. I can go downstairs and get a bagel. But then, so it's kind of the chicken or the egg thing. Do the businesses attract the patrons, or do you have to have enough patrons to attract the business? And it's probably a mix of both.
What steps will you take to promote sustainable and environmentally friendly practices within our city?
Now you're hitting on a topic that's especially close to my heart. I have been an environmentalist my entire life. I was raised in a farm where we recycled pretty much everything. I used to walk the road picking up all the aluminum cans that people would throw out along the road. I have been, like I said, on the solid. I went in and talked to Mayor Snow back in 2017 about sustainability and association with the sustainability with the city. And he's like, well, would you like to be my representative on the local recycle board? And I said, sure, yes. So I've been on that since then, working to educate about recycling and more opportunities. By the way, there is an e-waste collection this Thursday at noon at Seton High School parking lot. So if you have some electronic waste you want to get rid of this November 9th, you can go to the Seton High School parking lot to get rid of that. One of the things I'm very proud about the city council that's currently in office is they passed a climate action plan for the city of Richmond last fall. Within my role as if I were on city council, I would use that as a focus for pretty much every decision that was going on. Is the budget fitting within what to make the city more sustainable, encouraging residents to be more sustainable? Is it going to improve the environment? Encourage planting of trees, working to get grants that would do those kind of things. The Richmond Sanitary District is currently working on 2 grants that would improve recycling in Richmond. So, yeah, that you hit on a passionate area.
What measures will you implement to ensure the safety of our neighborhoods and reduce crime rates?
I would make sure, and working within that with the budget, is to make sure that our police department is fully funded and fully trained. I've heard, Mayor Snow proudly say, there have been several incidents where if the police officers who were interacting with the members of the community that were having the issues, it could have escalated, and they had the proper training to handle the situation and de-escalate the situation. Also, one of my fellow candidates, Carl Reinhardt, is a really big advocate, and I'm picking up on this as working to improve the neighborhood associations, so that the neighborhood associations can work to build a sense of community back into the different neighborhoods. And a lot of the community issues are neighbors kind of not caring about what's going on with their neighbors. And they're injuring their neighbors or just creating an atmosphere where it's not good. Whereas, I mean, I came from a tiny town, and if I'd actually done anything, my parents would have found out before I got home. And I would, it was a bit of a deterrent, and it was also, not that I was a troublemaker, but it was, it builds a sense of community that I think helps take away a lot of issues that then the police don't even need to be called in, and provide some security and, a better sense of, how should I say, safety.
Do you have any specific goals that you'd like to share with us now?
Like I said, would love to have the environment be a focus of every decision that we're making. Could within the budget, what can we do that would make Richmond more sustainable? It is an attractive feature that would bring people to here. We are a tree city. Some people, that is a draw for some individuals. Having it be and we've been working on this as being a bike-friendly town with the Cardinal Greenway, the Gorge Trail, things along those lines. All of these things would make Richmond that would make it an attractive place for people to come to as well as businesses to come to.
What made you want to run for your position?
Like I said, I've been here for 24 years. I have been involved in the Street Tree Commission, been involved in the Solid Waste Recycle District, been involved in Richmond Civic Theater. Just there's so much to love about Richmond Symphony Orchestra, all of these things. And my parents have been, how shall I say, my parents, my dad was a trustee in a small township in Illinois. My mother was a supervisor for the township in Illinois. And I've always felt a sense of service. And I'm really thinking this just as an extension of my service to this adopted city of Richmond. So that's kind of at heart why I'm doing this.
Well, Ron, we got 2 more questions for you.
Oh.
And then I'm going to give you an opportunity to kind of give your final elevator speech or outro.
Will you build off of the previous mayor's work, or will you want to start something new to catch up on something that they didn't? I'm a person that does best at adapting things. So taking a project, looking at it potentially with a fresh set of eyes. So the simple answer is yes, I would work with what the mayor has adapted and where we would be going forward. But again, with that focus on the environment.
What do you think makes Richmond to someone who doesn't reside here unappealing?
The thing that probably is the most unappealing are the blighted houses. As you're driving down various neighborhoods, you see houses that are in various stages of disrepair. That probably is one of the more unappealing things about it. And it would be, I'm appreciating the focus that that Mayor Snow and the administration has taken over the last 8 years of trying to get rid of properties. I think there are some things that we could do, both continuing on that of removing blighted properties, but also rehabilitating some of these properties. We actually I met an individual at the 4th Street Fair who bought 2 houses in town. They moved from California, so they could buy 2 houses. They're rehabilitating one to live in and one to rent. And that's better than tearing either of them down. So I think there are opportunities that we could encourage more of that kind of redevelopment to get rid of some of those eyesore properties.
All right, Ron, it's on you. Anything you want to share with the listeners as we approach election on Tuesday?
Yes, election is on Tuesday. Well, I just appreciate this opportunity to answer the questions and see what our future can hold. That's an outstanding thing. I've always, like I said, been an advocate. I'm an educator myself. I see that it was really the future. I have chosen to run on 3 basic legs of my platform. E for the environment. I've kind of harped on that a bit here. To have a quality environment, to improve the environment so that living conditions can be better here in Richmond. Infrastructure. We need to have a solid infrastructure. We're having construction fatigue, I know, but having having a solid infrastructure for people and businesses to work within is crucial, and then opportunities for all. It's providing opportunities for all Richmond residents in a variety of different ways. You mentioned housing as being a crucial one. It was importance to you in terms of asking the questions on that. That's one of those components of it. And I guess on the simple part, would appreciate your vote on November 7th.
All righty. Well, Ron, it has been a pleasure to learn a little bit more about you. I got a lot of other questions and a different time. Thank you for coming out on this Sunday evening and joining the podcast for our future leaders. Out of the mouth of babes. Thank you. We appreciate you, and I'm sure we will all get together at some point because you got some wonderful things you wanted to share with us. So thanks again.
Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you. Welcome to Out of the Mouth of Babes, the podcast for our future leaders. Today we have a very special guest in the house, Mr. Carl Reinhardt III. But before I let Carl introduce himself, I'm going to have each one of the students introduce themselves and give a little background of who they are, what school they attend, what they're involved in, what their grades look like, and then we'll go from there.
My name's Savannah Hilbert. I go to Richmond High School. I am involved in sports like basketball, and my grades are good.
All right, next up.
Hello, everyone. I'm Michael Allen Linceta. I also go to Richmond High School, sophomore. I mainly just do poetry, and my grades are pretty excellent, if I do say so myself, but my parents probably wouldn't agree.
All right, we're going to turn it over to Mr. Reinhardt. I've had the pleasure of knowing Mr. Reinhardt for a number of years, but I'm going to give him about a minute or two to kind of describe who he is, and then I'm going to turn it over to the kids and let them ask questions.
Sure, appreciate it. Kevin, thanks for having me, students. A pleasure to be here. Carl Reinhardt III, originally from Muncie, Indiana, came to Richmond in '99, attended Earlham College and graduated in '03. I live here now with my wife and 3 children. Wife's a business owner in downtown Richmond. Children are 5, 4, and 1. worked in the community, doing a number of things. Have a background in business. My degree is, and I've got an MBA as well. Also have some experience in mental health and working with youth, which I currently do now with my nonprofit Future Achievers. Also doing some work with DCS and probation, serving families, doing case management, things like that as well. So being involved in the community, active with youth and with families is a big priority for me and a lot of what I do. And just an all-around helper is what I try to be.
Starting off with Savannah, then we'll go Michael, and you guys go back and forth. And this is more of a conversation, so feel free to just interact.
What do you love about Richmond?
Good question. Richmond is very similar to Muncie. And so I remember growing up as a kid, some of the factories and things that we had at the time. And I know here, Richmond was a hustling, bustling place years ago as well. Saw some downturn when the factories and things left. Things are coming back. And so one of the definite things I think is Richmond is a place of possibilities. I mean, there's a lot of opportunity here. I believe things are moving, I think, in the right direction with some infrastructure, with some new opportunities, money coming in. And so I'm excited to see possibilities for more folks here in our community.
All right. Do you think that Richmond needs to add anything, like specifically attractions?
Oh, most definitely. Always room for improvement. One of the things that I know in my work with young people, they've talked to me and shared is our youth needs something to do in this community. Teens, high school students and middle school students I've talked to both who have said they feel like there's not enough for them to do here. Some students miss the Rexplex. They talk about some of the amenities that we do have maybe being too costly. I know transportation is an issue for young people as well. And so would definitely like to see us engage our young people more and provide some more recreational, but also educational opportunities. And I think this platform here is a huge one for our young people. So we can definitely do some more in those areas, supporting our teens.
What do you want in this position?
In this position, I want to make a difference. I want to make a difference for more people in our community. I do feel like there are some that see success and that have a chance to excel. And I think that sometimes it feels like it's kind of the same people or same organizations at times. And I think some of those folks are going to do well regardless. And so what I want to do is I want to serve more of the Richmond community, and I want to help more people across the board improve their quality of life.
That's pretty good to hear, man. Do you have any goals of things exactly that we need to build? Do you have anything that you yourself, as a child, have sought for in Richmond?
Ooh, yeah. Honestly, everything I do is around helping others, and so my personal goals are around serving. I work right now, like I said, with Future Achievers, and so we work with students in the high school and at the middle school as well. And so working real hard to connect with them and to provide, information and opportunities that they wouldn't otherwise have access to. Work with some adults as well in the community. And again, it's just about helping. And so making a difference is who I am. And that's what I do on a daily basis. It doesn't feel like work. It's a passion of mine. I believe it's my calling.
How will you support local businesses and just overall have that growth?
Yeah, I think support for individuals, for businesses, all of it starts with communication. And so we got to have, I'm going to have open lines of communication. Another thing I want to do is get out and visit, be able to visit organizations more and to be able to talk with them and to hear firsthand about their experiences. And we get a lot of talk in our community. A lot of people have a lot of different opinions, as to how businesses are faring, what our downtown looks like, so on and so forth. But you really don't know until you get out and talk to those individuals directly. Like I said, my wife is a business owner. Her business is downtown Richmond, Dollhouse Salon, right on 7th and Main, and she's doing well. Her partner and her staff there are doing well for themselves. A really nice location that the owner has created for them, and so I know it can be done. I know some of the opportunities that she's been able to see and realize, and so definitely. Growth, I think, is on the horizon, and it is available for more people here.
That's good. Can you tell us how you plan to protect the people that you want to help?
Yeah, one of the things I've done already, some work is focusing on neighborhoods, and so I don't know if people know or if you all know that Richmond is carved up. If you were to look at a map, it's carved up into separate neighborhoods, and we used to have, I think, thriving neighborhood associations. It's actually still, to my knowledge, is still on the books, meaning that if you were to go to city code and look up the ordinance, you would find that language, neighborhood associations in there. They have a nonprofit already established that had funding to support activities in the neighborhoods as well. But somewhere along the way, I think the funding may have decreased. And then I know a key person that was involved retired. And when she retired, it seemed like that information and that work around neighborhood associations went with her. So one of the things I've been doing even before I decided to be a candidate for city council is I started to do some work on the neighborhood association. So try to uncover that information. I've been out to a couple neighborhoods and started to talk to folks that are living there. Some of the work I've done, one with Greenwood Apartments, that neighborhood there is one as far as going out and surveying the residents, kind of seeing what their needs are. But the big push is around the neighborhood associations. I believe if we can get our neighbors talking and if we can get resources into the neighborhoods, instead of trying to wait or make our people in the neighborhoods get up Chester Boulevard or get to the east side to get to resources, I think we'll be able to serve folks better. And then also to revive that sense of community. I mean, we got to have that in our neighborhoods to really feel safe. We got to know our neighbors. We got to talk to each other, and we have to support folks. And that's definitely something that I'll work to do, whether I'm in city council or not. I mean, I'm dedicated to that work.
What do you believe led you here to want to run?
Yeah, it was that passion of service, and so I see city council as an opportunity for me to serve at a deeper level. It provides, I think, a platform and an opportunity to collaborate with those that might be difficult for me or I'd had limited access to. Provides an opportunity for me to be more informed about how our government works and about how the system works, and look for opportunities and ways to be able to share that information with more in our community. Again, to help them rise up, as well.
Awesome.
All right. Let's go on the topic of education. As many of us know, that education can sometimes be a little bit crooked and not really necessary. What do you think you're going to do if you do manage to get into office to change that, make things more practical?
In education?
Yes.
One of the things, though, that I'll share with you all is that, city council, we do have limited roles. And so when it comes to education, per se, that's not something that a city council person directly has influence over or affects. Like I can't write an ordinance or propose an ordinance to affect, education or what Richmond Community Schools does. That's the job of the school board. But one of the things, though, that I would do and would like to do is get young folks like yourselves, more involved. Again, this platform is awesome. And I think, at the city level and I think on city council, I was just thinking before I came in, like we need to have a group of students, who are connected with the city councilors and city council in that process, whether that's you all coming through and shadowing or if that's creating a youth council. That would, provide advice, to city officials to help us understand, what you all are experiencing in this community, whether it be on an education standpoint or just from a safety or needs, standpoint as well. And then also, again, just to show you what happens in the city, how government works, so that way you all can be more involved now. And then also make plans to be involved and hopefully take our place, in the future. One of the things I can always do and I will always do, though, is to lend an ear. And so, my information, my contact information is right on my cards that I pass out to the community. And so please feel free to call me, email me, anytime. Let's talk and share your ideas and let's see how one way or another, we can make it happen.
What type of attractions would you like to add or maybe see in attractions we might already have?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of let's look at what we currently have. Let's make sure we're utilizing it. And then let's find the gaps, if there are any, and right now, first thing that comes to mind is, and I know it's controversial, but it's the bike path, And I know there's people that don't like it and don't see value in it. But I would say try it first. I've been able to, I've got a bike and I've been able to ride on the bike path with the Richmond Rose Pedals. They have a great opportunity that they provide to community members on a monthly basis, taking rides throughout town. And it's really changed my perspective on the city. The other thing I noticed too, when I go vacation, I went to Florida over fall break. Guess what we did?
Road bikes.
Road bikes. I mean, you know what I'm saying? It's, you go to Florida, you go to these vacation spots, that's exactly what they're doing. We hopped on an electric bike and we went all over that city. And it was a great way to really see that community. And so that would be one. And I'm not necessarily talking about promoting the bike path. I mean, that would be part of it, but really it's promoting bike riding. And so one of the things I saw that was cool that I keep talking about are these what's called SE bikes. And so you get a chance, jump on YouTube and just search SE bikes and you'll see some of the rides they're doing in Philly and some of the rides they're doing in New York. And I mean, you got 20, 30, 50, young kids on these big BMX bikes. They look like a mix between like a mountain bike and a BMX bike. They're doing wheelies down the street and things like that. So I seen a group of them in Fort Lauderdale and they were riding and they're like, man, this is what we do like all day long. They're on bikes riding. And when you talk about safety and things to do, here's another one. I mean, if we could put these kids on bikes, which I don't see a lot of young people riding bikes now, but if we were able to put them on bikes and they were riding through the city, on bicycles, I mean, these are kids that, aren't out doing the wrong things, providing positive outlets for them. Another attraction, I think there's plans already in the works to do some development in the Gorge area. That's another attraction that you'll see if you go vacationing is waterways, activities along the water. And so being able to have walking trails, being able to have boat launches to put your kayak and canoes in the waters and things like that. Zip line they're talking about as well. I mean, those are great, attractions, not only for vacationers or folks coming to our city, but it's also great for us as community members to be able to use. Biggest thing about it too is it promotes physical fitness, and getting out and doing something active, which is great for our health. So,
Carl, one of the things you mentioned was the bike riding, and as you know, from when we were growing up, that's all we did. And it's interesting how things are coming back around because we realize that those things are still valuable experiences for youth. And so that's a very interesting perspective.
Would love to see it.
All right. What's your thoughts on old Richmond? Like the old stuff we have from maybe like when you were our ages or before then. Do you want to replace it with something new or do you want to keep it and embrace the old?
No, I think we definitely have a place for the old, to embrace. And I didn't grow up here, but when I came, one of the things that I learned really, and that was promoted a lot was Richmond's rich jazz history, right? I mean, this is called the birthplace of recorded jazz. And I think we've done a great job and would love to see even more expansion as far as celebrating that, how the city has, or whomever, don't want to miscredit folks, but how they have rehabbed the record studio down in the Gorge area. And you've got kind of their walk of fame down there. If you ever, go on a bike ride or walk down there, you'll see the plaques of the different artists that came through. I mean, our jazz legacy is huge. And we had big names, come through this community. I would really love to see us do more with that. I'm surprised we don't have with that, a jazz club in this community or, venues that have jazz artists coming through and celebrating that, maybe even remaking some of what would have looked like in those days, a jazz experience. But, we've got Elstro Plaza, which I like as well. Again, as I'm traveling, I'm seeing these spaces that look just like these spaces that we have in Richmond or that we're trying to create. And so, again, the opportunities, it's crazy also, to think about what's on the horizon here and what we can do with this community. But I say let's embrace it. Our civil rights, Underground Railroad history, as well, too. If you jump on the Tourism Bureau's website, you'll find the Black History Trail and, Levi Coffin House. But then you'll also see some more local places. It talks about the Negro League history, that we have here as well, too. Awesome, and we definitely should be celebrating that and building up around that, while we also, though, I think embrace the new,
Carl, you talked about a couple things that I wanted to pinpoint. You mentioned, the fact that you graduated from Earlham. Talk to us a little bit about how you see the role of the colleges in town, which there are 4 really, and how they could help efforts or what are they doing to help the efforts of things that could be done at City Council, if any. And then you also really mentioned that people don't necessarily understand the role of city councilors. And so if you could touch bases on that and tell the folks out there, what are some of the specific things that you guys deal with and that you can impact that'll help students out or the community?
Sure. As far as the colleges go, I think first and foremost, I think we need to have a good partnership as far as the city. We need to have a good partnership with our institutions of higher education, our colleges. When I was a student at Earlham, honestly, and I've talked to some people here recently, and they think they felt the same way, is that, Earlham and Richmond didn't have the greatest relationship back then. And may still be struggling in that area, even now. It just felt when I was a student, I felt like, campus was one place, and it was like we didn't even really feel a part of the city. And I think that's a shame, and especially when I think about, again, we talk about young people like yourself, and we're looking at opportunities. These colleges have some amazing opportunities for you all to engage, to get a better understanding of what college looks like, and for you all to be able to, plan for your future, whether it's, summer opportunities to be able to take courses, opportunities to be able to come on campus and take tours, so on and so forth. But it's a huge opportunity to have so many colleges in a small town. For you all to be able to choose from. And I think as far as that collaboration goes, one of the things we need to be focusing on is retaining students like yourselves who are engaged and involved, who are doing well in the classroom, and that want to make a difference. We have to do a better job of partnering to retain you all, because what I feel like has happened over the years, and there's been some reporting on what they call brain drain, meaning we get seniors who graduate from high school here in Richmond and Wayne County, and they go elsewhere. They go out of our city, they go out of state, and it takes them a while to return back to our community, if they return at all. And so, again, with so many institutions, I think we got a real opportunity to be able to keep you all here closer to home, and to be able to help us continue to grow and thrive. As far as city council, so what we do, we are the legislative branch of government. And so as far as my understanding, we have 2 primary roles, and one is to pass the city's budget. And so that budget will come from department heads, be presented, also the mayor, and then it comes to city council, and then city council finally gives, the yes or no on passing that budget. The other part is ordinances, is what we call them here. It's the same thing as laws, essentially. And so those laws come before city council. We have the ability to sponsor those and put some laws on the books, as well as hear, from others. Some of the zoning applications and things like that will come before city council as well too. And to get honestly more information about it, or to get some exposure, if you're not able to go to a city council meeting and sit in, which those are public meetings, those are open for the public to be able to go in and listen to or to observe. But you can also jump on WCTV. They have a website. They record all of those, and it's great to be able to sit back and watch those through WCTV.
What specific plans do you have to address affordable housing in our city?
Yeah, great question. Affordable housing, one of the things we got to do is we have to understand the housing situation and the situation of folks here in our community. For instance, understanding that we have a lot of people in this community who are working and who want to do well, who want to thrive, but aren't making enough money to make ends meet. I did a little bit of research, and there's a couple things you can find. Wayne County's livable wage. There's an MIT website that has that information out there. And what I found for a single parent with 3 kids, do you know any single parents that might have 3 kids? Don't say any names, just think of them. Keep that in your mind. So for a single parent with 3 kids, to be able to, a livable wage for that parent is $47 an hour. $47 an hour. It comes out to like, if they get 40 hours a week, my rough math came out to somewhere like around 90 grand a year, $90,000 a year. A single parent with 3 kids making 90,000. I don't know. I know several single parents in that situation, but not making $90,000 a year. You think of some of the jobs that we have, at 15, $20 an hour, they're missing the mark. And this livable wage was only to meet the basic necessities. So you're talking housing, you're talking food, transportation, medical care. I mean, we're not talking about going on vacations or, showering your kids with gifts on Christmas, those type of things. We're talking just the basics. And so, as a city leader, we have to understand that first and foremost, we have a population, a certain number of people who aren't making that livable wage. And so it's going to be difficult for them to be able to pay for housing and take care of their daily needs. The other thing with that, when you talk about affordable housing, so there's some information out there online too that says we should not be spending more than 30% of our income on housing. Okay. And so I did some rough calculations. And so if your rent is $600 a month, you need to be making $2,000 a month to afford that $600 a month rent. The people that I work with, that I come into contact with, are living on fixed incomes or they're living on low wage jobs, and they're not making that $2,000, a month to be able to cover that rent. And then again, if that's a single parent, if they have children, those costs just go up and up. And so, again, we have to realize what the true needs of the people are. And you're not going to get that from sitting behind a desk, kind of armchair quarterbacking this thing. You got to get in the community and walk alongside some people to understand. But some things that we can do. Definitely we can do some blight prevention. And I talked to a person in office now who shared a great idea as far as trying to prevent some of the blight that we're seeing. So catching homeowners and assisting them with making improvements to the homes before the homes get to a place where they can't be habitable and they have to be torn down. The other thing I think we can do is we can get with our landlords and get them together and kind of talk with them and understand their position a little bit better and kind of what they're dealing with, try to find some support, some financial support for them as well. I mean, they're offering a great service to our community, and I think they're, some of them have their backs against the wall when it comes to having to renovate some of their properties, clean up some messes, things like that. So I think there's a number of things that we can do, understanding, again, where the shortfalls are, and again, it's about filling those gaps.
All right. This will be the last question, Michael.
All right. This is going to be a question about, do you know the old Reed Hospital?
Yeah.
That large field there? If you could, what would you put there to help the community?
Ooh, that's a good question. I'll say, just to answer that off the top of my head, I would honestly say I don't know at this point. What I would want to do would be, again, to kind of poll the community to see what's needed. The other thing I want to do is I want to make sure we don't have another site that we could use now rather than build on that site. And what I mean is that, if I was to jump the gun and say, for instance, let's say we put a recreational facility over there. Okay, let's put a recreational facility, and we jump and we build that new. Well, we've got the Rexplex, which we had, is sitting on the east side of town. It's sitting empty. What happens then to that building? If we continue to just build up and just throw money on new projects, we're not doing anything with the existing properties that we have that continue to sit and continue to deteriorate. And so I would want to take a quick step back, again, kind of poll the community, put some folks together and see what the need is. But again, I have heard of maybe doing like some sports fields out there. And again, great idea. But, I'm thinking about the fields on the west side. I mean, you got REO over there who's offering a great service to our community. If we do something new, is it going to take away from a program that we currently have? And I don't want to build new as a detriment, to kind of what we currently have going on. I would want to, again, invest in them and fill the gaps where we need to.
Thank you, Carl. I am super excited that you were able to join us on Out of the Mouth of Babes. I'm going to give you a few minutes to just kind of tell the folks out there your outro or your elevator speech. But again, it is a pleasure to have known you for such a long period of time, to have seen you evolve in the work that you're doing in the community. So, Carl, tell the folks a little bit.
Man, I think your students did a great job asking some very thoughtful questions, and I hope I was able to give some informative answers to that. Honestly, at this point, all I can say is, again, I'm a servant, of this community. It's what I do. It's my passion. It's my calling. Grateful to God for this opportunity to be here with you all, and for what He's done in my life. And I look forward to serving this community as its next city council person at large. But if not, if the community does not vote me in office, know that this isn't the end of me. You're going to see me still yet out there working and serving as I have, and I'll continue to do that. But I would appreciate the community's vote. Come November 7th is the last day to vote. So that way we can do the things that I talked about here and invest in this community. It's all about working better together. And so collaboration, is key. And so know that if I'm in the seat, it's not we just put Carl in council and now we're going to let him go. No, I'm calling on all of you to be at the table and to have conversations and to help us do this work, because it definitely takes us working together to make it happen.
Out of the Mouth of Babes, a podcast for our youth. Thank you, Carl Reinhardt III, product of Muncie, Indiana, by way of Earlham College. Appreciate you, brother. Appreciate you coming on the show. Thank you for all the work that you're doing in the community. Continue to keep the work that you're doing. We're out. Welcome to Out of the Mouth of Babes, the podcast for our future leaders. Today we have a very special guest in the house, Mrs. Jane Bumbelow. Jane is here. She is running for city council at large. And what I'm going to do first, before Jane has an opportunity to introduce herself, I'm going to let these fine students introduce themselves first. First and last name, where you're from, what you're about, what you do, as well as your interests.
My name is Yuvraj Prajapati. I go to the Richmond High School. I'm in 10th grade, and I love making music. Anything about music, I love it.
I'm Savannah Hilbert. I'm a junior, and I just like to play basketball.
There you go.
Jane, it's on you. Tell us about who Jane is, what you're interested in, what you're involved in, all of the above.
Oh, my goodness. Okay, so I am Jane Bumbelow. I'm currently on Richmond City Council. I am married. I've been married for 40 years. Mother of 10 children, grown children, and 16 grandchildren. I am involved. I'm involved in many things. I'm involved in Chamber, Drug-Free Wayne County, Crossroad Christian Recovery Center for Women. I'm involved in Birthright, involved in any outreach organizations that need extra help when I'm available. I love to participate and help where I can.
All right. So, Jane, the way this is going to work is that I'm going to turn it over to the students, and I'm just a guy in the room. So they're going to ask you questions, and we'll go from there. And then once we'll sum it up, and then we'll give you another opportunity to kind of tell your position if you feel like you didn't get an opportunity to say something that you wanted to.
Okay.
Starting off with Yuvraj.
So what specific plans do you have to address affordable housing in our city?
Well, I know that I am involved in the Richmond Housing Authority. I'm the liaison for the Housing Authority. They are in the process of putting together a plan for the old Nicholson site and building. Also, for the city, they're in the process of renovating buildings downtown. They want to put apartments in the upstairs of the buildings. There's many different people who are actively involved in the community and wanting to participate with the housing. So I'm just there to help, to encourage, to learn, to grow with them. When when they come with their plans and they come to City Council, we do the voting on the zoning, the variances, the appropriations. So they come to us and they present their plans, what they want to do, and then collectively we do the research and then we vote on it. And we all want to see more housing. I know that is a problem in Richmond. And as in plans, personally, I'm not a builder. I'm not everybody's good. Everybody has their gifts and talents, and it's a collective effort. It's a collective effort for all of us. So there's going to be the architects, there's going to be the builders, there the council members that do the voting, everybody's going to be involved. It's not just one person who does the job. It's many people together who do the job.
What are some things you love about Richmond?
Well, I love the fact that I was born and raised here. I have a lot of very happy memories here. I was raised in a family of 10 children, and my father was worked at Second National Bank for 28 years. I love the people here. I've made many lifelong friendships here. That's probably my number one thing is the people, the community members here in Richmond.
Awesome.
How will you support local businesses and encourage economic growth in our community?
Okay, supporting local businesses is shop local. Everybody needs to shop local. Also recognize that business owners go through a lot even to establish their business. They rely on the people to come and eat there, to support them in many different ways, whether it be to support them by coming and eating there, support them by the voting that we do in council if they want to build a new building. I forget the question. You're going to have to re-ask it again. Okay.
The question I asked was, how will you support local businesses and encourage economic growth in our community?
Yeah, and also we encourage economic growth. We also encourage businesses to come to Richmond. We have a very wonderful thing called tax abatements, where it helps the businesses when they come. They can apply for tax abatements, and it helps with the taxes. It helps them to be able to expand, to provide new jobs for people. There's many different ways. Once again, it's many different people come together and support one another.
How do you plan on engaging with the youth population and involve them with the decision-making process that affect their future?
All righty. So that's one of the things that I'm very happy about, the new HELP initiative that they have brought to City Council. They want to involve the youth in the decision making. It's very important because you guys are our future. Mm-hmm. You guys need to come to the table and share your hopes and your dreams. One of the things I shared in the forum is that we have many people who have established many beautiful things here in Richmond, but the youth that are coming up, they want to put their blood, sweat, and tears into this community too. It's a collaborative effort. The older generations need to allow the younger generations to let their voice be heard. The younger generations needs to see the beauty that's already here, and it didn't just happen. You know, we've all worked together to make this happen. It's at the schools. I think it starts in the schools too, for the schools to have opportunity for the students to participate more in the community, provide programs for them to get the education so they're job ready when they graduate from high school, so they're ready to go out and participate in the community, get the jobs that they really want. It's just very important for your guys. You all need to know that you have something valuable to contribute to the community. Not everybody's going to look the same. Not everybody's going to have the same gifts and talents, but it's important that we share them. It's important that we listen to one another and value one another and what we have to share.
So how do you think that we can encourage our young talent to stay local once they graduate high school or their secondary education?
Well, I think that one of the things that I find is that when you participate in the community and you build those relationships, that is something that is going to encourage you to want to come back. I know that when you build, just like in a church, you have a church, you have different people with gifts and talents. And if somebody is not brought in there, they're not going to feel part of. You have a community. Many different people have gifts and talents. You need to be part of. And that's when you grow roots. And then when you go out there, there's going to be a lot of people who go out, and then they can come. We want them to come back. But everybody also, they might be called in other directions. But we would love to have you come back. But I think that the main thing is the relationships that you build, the community that you're part of, and we need to have things available here for your youth to want to participate in. Just like the conversation we had out there in the other room, you guys even see the things that some of us adults see too.
Yeah.
We want to make sure that we take care of what we have. We want to make sure that we value what we have, and we want to make sure we value the people that we come in contact with.
Back to kind of what you were just saying, how do you plan on taking care of what we have now?
Well, one of the things that we do on taking care of now, number one, it starts individually. It starts with your own responsibilities. How are you taking care of your own property? How are you taking care of your own family? Then you reach out. How do you help your neighbor? How do you help your classmates? You're always going to see when you're walking down the hall. If you see something laying down, do you pick it up? That happens out here in the community. When you see something laying down on the ground, do you pick it up? There's a lot of work that does need to be done, and it's I think every single one of us have our responsibilities to do. It's catching. If you're living in a neighborhood and say that all the yards and all the just the community, the smaller community within the larger community, if everything's a mess and then all of a sudden one of you decides I'm going to do something about it and you start cleaning up, it's catching. It really is catching. One of the things I enjoyed participating in is the Alley Cats cleanup. I enjoyed that. I enjoyed meeting new people. I enjoyed going around the neighborhoods and cleaning up. Some people got out of their cars and they looked around and they were very shocked at what we were doing, but they even said, hey, could you throw this away too? And they took something out of their car and handed it to us. And we're like, great, sure. But that's something, it catches. When somebody watches somebody else take care of something and they see them find joy in those mundane tasks, that's something that actually can encourage other people to do the same.
Going back to what you were talking about earlier, how do you feel about diversity, inclusion, and equality within our community?
Well, I want you to know that I was raised, like I said, family, 10 children. There was not prejudice in my family, and I am so thankful for that. I am a Christian, and I truly believe from my heart we're all made in the image of God, that we all have value. Every one of us have been born with special gifts and talents. And nobody should be excluded because of the color of their skin, their economic background, where they came from. Everybody needs to be welcoming to others.
What goals would you like to share with us now?
It's kind of like what we're all talking about. One of the things that I would love to see, I really want us as a community to take care of what we have. I really want to see things cleaned up more, things repaired, building structures, grounds, land, and most importantly, relationships. When everybody was pulled away from one another and basically locked up from each other because of COVID, it really did a number on everybody, not just a select few, but everybody. And in some ways, it was helpful because it forced you to sit back and reflect and really consider what's really important in life. But by the same token, with that pulling away from one another, there is an increased apathy and disconnect that has happened because of it. And I want to see us come back together stronger, and I want to foster that. My goal is to even be more involved, building more relationships, seeing people connect with one another, and just opening yourself up to new possibilities of what can happen in the community, and making sure that everybody's voice is heard, not just a select few, but not just have a meeting and say, we want the public input. I really want to take in strong consideration about the public input and implement it and really value what they have to share.
I want to hear, what were the events that led you here? Why do you want to run for this position? What brought you here?
Okay. Well, originally what brought me here, I have been a caregiver for 38 years, and my husband and I brought my parents in our home to live with us, and that's a childhood dream that I had. I've always wanted to care for my parents. And my mother passed away a year after they moved in, and my father passed away 3 years later. And like I said, this has been a lifelong dream that I had. And I found myself sitting in the apartment. There was a handicap accessible apartment built on our home to care for my parents. And I was sitting in the apartment, and I was praying about what I was to do, because I fulfilled my lifelong dream of caring for my parents. And I remember one specific time of prayer in the apartment, and I told the Lord I wanted him to use me. And I wanted to be used by him. And I remember sitting there thinking, oh my gosh, what's happening? And 2 days later, I was contacted and asked if I would consider running for public office. That was honestly the furthest thing from anything I'd ever want to do. But I decided in my heart, after counseling with my family and friends, I decided in my heart, if I look at this job with the attitude in which I've been gifted of being a caregiver, and loving and serving people, then I can do it. I have absolutely enjoyed the last 4 years being here in public office. I've enjoyed the people. I've enjoyed the job. I've enjoyed helping and serving where I can and getting to know people. And I really prayed about if I was to do this again, and I'm called to do it again, and trust whatever outcome. That's what I know, that there's a plan for me. So that's how I got here.
I know you're talking about keeping people involved and staying connected. How do you plan on keeping our youth involved and making them realize their role in building our community?
Okay, so one of the ways that I'm involved with the youth is through, I know my grandchildren go to Seton Catholic School. So I go and I volunteer where I can. I just volunteered for an event this week with the kids. And sometimes, even when the children are that young, preschool, first grade, second grade, the impact, the adult to child impact that you make with them as a child has profound effects as they get older. I remember specifically when I was 3 years old, even my cousin sitting down one time talking to me. I still remember that moment. And then I have been involved with the high school before, when my kids were in school, and keeping them connected. It just goes back to relationships. Building those relationships with the students. It can't be bringing the student and plugging them in where I think they need to be. It starts with the relationship first. It starts with getting to know the child, just like this young man with the music. It's like, wow, that's pretty awesome. I had some of my children were involved in music in high school, and that's some of them, are singers, and it's wonderful. And you love basketball. Getting to know what you're interested in, and then finding those avenues to get you plugged in. You don't want to try to fit a a square peg in a round hole or a round peg in a square hole. You want to find where people are gifted, where they can blossom, where they can thrive. So it's not one of those things, I'm going to do X, Y, Z, because it takes time. You want to build the relationship. It's not just going to happen. It takes involvement in different capacities.
All right. We got about time for another question, and then we'll give you an opportunity to kind of sum it up. So,
Okay.
who's up next?
You were talking about schools, and I wanted to ask you about what is your strategy on improving education and providing equal opportunities for all students in our city?
Well, I am not really involved in the high school, because usually when you're involved in the high school, you have children that are the high school age. When my children were in high school, that was very different. I do know that there are many opportunities here in Richmond. I know that HYPE is young professionals, but I know that they have a tremendous program with the younger generation. I just look for opportunity to meet kids, whether it be at church, even here, out there in the room where we were just talking. I am one that's more relational, public relational, and meeting you where you're at. Maybe that's a question that I could ask you. What would you like to see me do to be more involved with the school? That's something that all of us need to know. What are some things that you would like to see myself or other council members? What would you like to see us do to connect more with you guys?
I would like to see maybe more opportunities for kids to have a shadowing experience with the city council, or a shadowing experience with the mayor, in which you can see how legislature or that kind of how it works.
That is wonderful. And our city council meeting is tomorrow evening, starts at 7:00, and you are welcome to come. You are welcome to come, and I'm sure the mayor would like to have student involvement come and shadow. That's a good start. That's a good start, but I really appreciate you sharing that. I really do.
Maybe I'll talk to some of the parents and see if we can get a couple to come tomorrow. But majority of them have sports at that time.
Right.
But I'll see. Savannah, do you have another question?
No.
All right, Jane, do you have anything you want to wrap up?
Well, I would just like to thank you guys for welcoming me here. I would like to further conversations with you guys. I would really love to get with you guys where we can talk more and you can ask more questions, and maybe I could get you introduced to different business owners where you could job shadow where they work. I would love to get you guys plugged in, but it's gonna take spending some time together and getting to know you and making the arrangements. But I'm thankful that you shared that.
All righty. Thank you for coming out to Out of the Mouth of Babes, the podcast for our future leaders. We appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome to Out of the Mouth of Babes, the podcast for our future leaders. Today we have a very special guest in the room with us. We have Mayor Dave Snow. Yes, give Mayor Dave Snow a round of applause.
Thank you for having me. I really do appreciate it. I'm happy to be here.
Thank you, Dave. Thank you. We're going to first start it off with the kids, young adults introducing themselves. Who are you, where you're from, what you're interested in, and all of the above.
All right. Hello, Mayor. I'm Michael Allen Lucida. I come straight here from Richmond. I'm a sophomore in high school, 15. I'm glad you're here with us today, and I can't wait to see what you bring.
Thank you. Good to meet you, Michael. Thanks for having me.
My name's Kevin Hanley Jr. I'm a senior in high school at Richmond. I play football and I wrestle. I'm excited to speak with you.
All right. Thanks, Kevin. Thanks for having me, man.
The other thing that these two didn't mention, they're also a member of the Wayne County Writers, which is a poetry club. I think Kevin's a mentor. He's also involved in Green Club.
Oh yeah, RHS Green Club.
And Michael's involved with some gaming clubs as well. Is that correct? Or you do a lot of gaming?
I have a YouTube channel.
As a YouTube channel. But anyway, I'm gonna turn it over to you, Dave, and then let you introduce yourself and a little bit about you, and then I'm gonna let the students sit back and they're gonna ask you questions.
Great.
So.
Excellent. Well, thank you. Yeah, I have Dave Snow. I lived in Richmond my entire life. I love living in this city. I've had a lot of opportunities to be elsewhere. My career was in broadcasting. I think a lot of people know that. And so I feel at home here. I feel good. Feels good to be back in this kind of setting. And, in my career in broadcasting, really developed a real love for the community. It was through broadcasting that I learned the difference in sort of a city and a community and a quality of place. And it didn't happen at a young age, I'll be honest with you. It really came about in my late 20s. If you'd asked me at 23 or 24, what makes a city or what makes Richmond, I think I would have referred to buildings and street names and things like that. But then at about 29, it all changed. And there's a whole story that kind of came along with that. But I got really involved in the City of Richmond fireworks that happen at Glen Miller Park every year. And that really started opening my eyes to what it means to call this place home and why it's home. And it goes beyond buildings and streets. Developed a huge love and passion for wanting to see Richmond be the best it can be, and then decided to run for mayor. I was elected in November of 2015. I've been serving as mayor since the beginning of January 2016 when I was inaugurated. This will represent the end of my second term, and I'm currently running for mayor to serve a third term if everyone chooses to keep me here. So it's an exciting time right now. It's a busy time. It's a stressful time. But a campaign at its best should always be a really healthy discussion that a community has about its potential, its future, its possibilities, and who in the community wants to partner with others in the community to see that vision to fruition. That's really what it's all about. That's us at our best. Now, when you watch TV and watch the news, none of that's happening, right? And so we have to be that here and be that change. So that's a little bit about my background, and we can get into more through the conversation if you want to.
Michael, you're up.
All right, let's start. The goals. What goals do you have if you are elected again?
So, talking about my goals, I am an overachiever at heart. When I ran for mayor in 2015, I set out this list of things I wanted to do while I was mayor. And I said, we're gonna tear down that old hospital. We're gonna fix up these roads. We are going to. So let me back up a little bit. I grew up on South 6th Street, like two blocks from here, right on 223 South 6th, right between St. Andrew's Church and Bethel AME, right there in the middle is where I grew up. And so I always think of those two places as like my other family and the people that raised me, right? And so my whole life, my dad worked in a local factory called Richmond Casting. A lot of people think my dad is the judge because they hear Mayor Snow and they think Judge Snow. And so I always have to tell them, I know Judge Snow, nice guy. I don't know how we're related. So my dad just recently retired from a local factory. And my mother used to be a cashier at a local drugstore called Hook's Drugs, but there's only two of us at the table that know what in the world that is.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And so she put herself back through school in her late 30s to become a nurse, and then spent her nursing career at Friends Fellowship. And so it's been a great upbringing and a great life here. And so my whole life, people have said, if we bring back the jobs, because my dad being a factory guy would always talk about how he watched factory jobs leave. Right. And so I always heard if we bring back the factory jobs and start putting back our manufacturing base and we fix up these roads and we get people living downtown again and make downtown full of people again, Richmond's unstoppable. That's what has to happen. Right. And I heard that my whole life. So ran for mayor in 2015 and said, we're going to tear down that old hospital. We're going to put people back downtown. We're going to reestablish the job base. We're going to fix the roads. Now, also, when I was running for mayor, you guys might remember this, back in 2015, there was a lot of talk about how all the city employees hadn't had a pay raise in 10 years. And I said, we're going to turn that around. We're going to get pay raises. I'm going to put out this huge list. So much so that the local newspaper ran an article and said, is this too much? Can he really do this? Or is he giving us all a big airy promise that he can't fulfill? And then he's sitting here today, like we're checking all that stuff off. And so you talk about the goals coming into this next term. We are at about the 1 yard line, to use a sports analogy, to to getting a big $40 million project downtown to put 150 market rate apartments, which is huge. You put all these people down here living here, that's 200, 300 people that live here. Then they're going to want things. They're going to want to shop and eat and hang out and bring their family and friends. This year, we've had a record year in our Midwest Industrial Park. We had $300 million invested this year in our industrial park. And since becoming mayor, we've created 1,000 new jobs. And right now, our unemployment rate is below the national average. So we're doing all the things. Of course, the old hospital's long gone. But now I look at that list and I think, man, we did it. And now we've got so much more to do. So I'm very, very excited and very energized about these next 4 years. And there's a lot more. When I look at this city, I see a lot of potential, a lot of things we can still do. I mean, this room we're sitting in is so cool, this view that we have. And how do we show more people how cool this city is and how cool it looks from here? You know, I get really excited about those kinds of things. So, yeah, I'm pretty pumped about it.
Kevin?
Okay, so you mentioned that list of things you had, and so maybe you don't know, but there are some people who have judged your work, especially with the roads. And so, I mean, they think that it's not getting done fast enough, or they think that downtown's been closed for too long. So what would you say to those people who have those comments about how the rate of things in which are going?
Yeah, you're only going to push that so fast. So some of the road work you've seen is state road work, and some of it is ours. And so we only have so much money every year in our city budget to allocate to that road work. And then the state's on their own schedule. So no mayor in the state of Indiana is going to call NDOT and say, I demand that you do this on this. It doesn't work that way. The state builds their own schedule. And they've been doing 27 through downtown. And then we did Loop Phase 1, and then coming in, I don't know, what we're about 16 months or so away from Loop Phase 2. And that project is what attracted this huge investor to downtown. So, you know, you can't do it in a way where everybody goes to bed one night and you sprinkle magic dust out and everybody wakes up to brand new roads. It doesn't work that way, especially when they've been deteriorating for as long as they had. And so I always have to remind people that no matter if it's a road or a building or your backyard, if you let it go and deteriorate for 10 years, you're not going to fix it in one, right? That doesn't make any sense. Your time to fix something is almost never exponentially smaller than the time that you let it deteriorate. It's not going to work that way. So, yes, they deteriorated for a long time. They've taken a while to fix, but you look out there now and it looks really, really good. And so they're coming along. And then because of that investment and that work, we had this big investor come along and say, I see what you're doing. I want to jump on this moving train. I want to invest money in all of this. And that's the work we've been trying to do for a long time, is do the kind of work that attracts the big investors. Now it's working. So, but there's always going to be a report card. Yeah. There's always going to be, you know, you could go into Disney World and start complaining if you want to. So, I could have grown up in Richmond and done that and been a complainer, but I thought instead I'm going to go get things done. And I'm more than happy to take blame and be the bad guy and get fingers pointed at me because I'm actually doing something, right? I'm doing something about it. The roads aren't in disrepair anymore, and go ahead and complain that it took too long or you don't like this, but hey, they're not falling apart anymore, right? And that's the goal at the end of the day. At some point, you have to take the initiative to do something and stop worrying about how everybody's going to nitpick and complain. That's easy to do from the sidelines. You played sports, right? You play sports now. Would you say you wrestle?
I wrestle and I play football.
So it'd be easy for me to sit there and be like, man, the way you did that match, Kevin, I mean, but you're the one doing it, right? Yeah. So it's like, you can sit and talk about it or you can just do it. And that's how you got to handle it. You got to just be the one to do it, right? That's what being mayor is all about, you know? Shed the spotlight. When good things happen, say, that's because of so-and-so and so-and-so. And then when it's bad, say, yeah, I'll take that, but I'm getting it done, right?
Michael.
All right.
Next question off the sheet.
All right. So to many people, Richmond does seem unappealing because of the minimal attractions. Let's say someone outside of Richmond comes up to you and tells you that the town is bad because it has nothing to do. How would you prove them wrong?
I'd tell them to come here to this podcast because I don't know how you're keeping the sound of that axe throwing out of this room. I was out in the waiting area, and I thought, I'm really anxious to walk in that room and see if they're able to keep that sound out of here. So there's things happening everywhere, and especially when we put 200 or 300 people down here, that's going to keep growing. I've been into the new Retro Jake's arcade. It's awesome. There's things happening everywhere. So people just have to start seeing the good and the beauty in our community and the things that we can do, and then take the initiative to offer more, right? I mean, the guy that opened that arcade just took the initiative to do it, and is catching that same kind of critique from people that are like, oh, well, you could have done it this way or that way. I'm sure the axe throwing place upstairs is hearing, oh, it would be better if blank, 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 but they're doing it, right? They're doing it. And it sounds pretty successful because it's Sunday night. It's 7:30. And when I say that place is banging, I mean it literally. It is banging up there. Right. So, I mean, I think there's all kinds of stuff happening, and it's just about what people want and who wants to take the initiative to provide it and who has the positive attitude to go out and find all the cool stuff happening. I go to a lot of cool events all the time. I see lots of great stuff happening. So I think it mostly comes down to attitude, right? Yeah. But I'll tell you this. I took a little trip. I love visiting San Antonio, Texas, because it's a city that kind of made some connectivity in a cool way. Mm-hmm. So I was on my way to San Antonio, and I flew to Houston to visit Houston to drive up to San Antonio. And I had to get an Uber for the first day just because I was renting my car the next day. And I get in the car with this Uber driver. And he says, what brings you to Houston? And I said, I'm just here for like a day and a half, and then I'm driving to San Antonio. And he said, good thing, man, this town's terrible. There's nothing to do here. Like, San Antonio is a better city. And I thought, it's always the natives, right? Yeah. The people that live in the city. That is Houston, Texas. Right. And my Uber driver said, there's nothing to do here. Like, Houston, Texas, there's nothing to do in Houston, Texas. They have 4 major sporting arenas in their downtown. They have professional football, soccer, baseball, and hockey all downtown. But there's nothing to do. Not in Houston, Texas, you know. So.
And a Richmond native there, Nate Treywick, who coaches at the University of Houston.
Right? So anywhere you go, you find a local. Have you lived here your whole life? They say yes. Then you say, what do you think about this city? And they'll say, nah. It's not, nah. That's what the locals always say. Yeah. You know.
Just it gets old for them.
Yeah.
Right. You know, you feel like you've seen it all, right?
Yep.
And so then everybody looks. And so when I was coming up through radio, I had a lot of offers from a lot of radio stations in a lot of different cities, like, come live here and work here. And I always thought, like, why would I pack up a U-Haul and go, 400 miles away and then unpack it and then say, now I'm ready to do my best and invest myself and have a great attitude. Like, why can't I just do it here? Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I had to make that very conscious decision. So it really turned me around. And I hope more people do that and have that moment and don't think the world's just so much better everywhere but here. I think this is one of the best cities in America. I love it here. I can't picture living anywhere else, and I see a lot of potential here.
Okay, so you mentioned like retro Jakes, and then you said like when a lot of people will sit up to the side and they'll complain and things, but they complain about when things are getting done. How will you use your mayoral status to support local businesses and encourage economic growth in our community?
Yeah, we do that in a lot of ways right now. So, man, there's a lot to unpack there. So at the city, we have, a revolving loan fund. A lot of people don't know the real details of that, which is really awesome. So we are able to do gap funding for small business owners when they need to make capital purchases and they can't fulfill that through a traditional bank loan. And I know everything I just said sounds like really boring and a lot of bureaucracy, but just basically, let's say, Kevin, you own a coffee shop and you need to go out, your roaster's dead, and you got to go buy a new coffee roaster. It's $20,000. Now you got to come up with $20,000. So you go down to the bank and you say, I need money for a coffee roaster. And they say, well, we're not loaning you $20,000. You've already got a loan out for the coffee shop. You've already got this. You've paid some of it off. You're in good standing, but not to a point where we're going to tack $20,000 on. But we will loan you 12, right? The revolving loan fund is the gap funder. Then you can come ask, we call it RLF for short, for 8. And then you can go buy your new coffee roaster. So that's one of the ways that we support the business market. So that's just one tiny one. We have the Redevelopment Commission that does that within the TIF district, which is our tax increment finance district. I created the PLACE program that is knocking down barriers for small business. Then we have incentives for large companies that can come in and apply for incentives as they expand and grow and out in the industrial park. So there's a list of ways that we interact with business to help them grow and flourish here in the community. But it's not easy, right? Running a business is really hard. And so people, when they go into it, have to be fully prepared. And hopefully they've been through the ISBDC, the Indiana Small Business Development Center, and other things like that so that they're fully ready to go,
All right. Michael, what kind of question do you have?
I do have a question about what will you do with Old Richmond? Old Richmond is an attraction itself.
Mm-hmm.
What do you want to do to make sure it's publicized? People and more people will get to know about it.
Yeah, the Old Richmond neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a beautiful neighborhood, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, being mayor, I go out and market the city all over Indiana. We actually entered into a contract with a company called, the company name is TMAP, but it's called Make My Move. So we entered into a contract with them, and we are actively right now marketing Richmond and neighborhoods like that all over the country to a digital workforce. And it's working. We've already attracted people to move here through that program. And so they get pictures, they get this whole sort of digital brochure, if you will, of we know you're a digital worker and we see your profile. We'd like to invite you to move to Richmond, and here are some incentives and some ways you can get connected. Here's some of the housing. And so far it's worked. We've had people from around the country over the last 2 years that have decided to move to Richmond. So we're in the very baby steps of that, but we're going to see it grow in the next probably 4 to 5 years and see more people start to move here. Because I know it's hard when you've lived here your whole life, but when we market Richmond to people all over the country, they see this place and they're like, what a beautiful, amazing city. Here's something really interesting that I bet you don't realize, because you guys have lived here your whole lives too, right? Mm-hmm. So we took people's responses from a big survey we did that don't live here that got a glimpse of Richmond, and we made a cloud graph out of it. And so the number one word that they called Richmond was the biggest word in the cloud graph. What do you guys think was the number one word for those people looking at Richmond? It's a fascinating answer that as a local I wouldn't have thought of. You want to take a guess at it?
Big.
Big's an interesting answer. You got a guess, Kevin?
Community.
Community's a good guess too. But I'll bet when I tell you, you'll say, I never thought of that. And it shows you how we as the locals have a weakness. Okay, the word authentic.
I love
Isn't that fascinating?
Makes sense.
So we don't think about that, right? They said authentic. We've been to other communities where they try to sort of manufacture a certain look and feel, but in Richmond, it's real. It's all real. And man, you talk about something that just opened my eyes, and I thought, wow. So how do we capitalize on the authentic feel of this city? And don't try to mask it, and don't try to cover it up or hide it, or don't put a facade over it. It's real, right? And so that just tells us that we need to do a better job of loving Richmond the way it is. Because when other people see it, they love it the way it is, right? They say, what an authentic city you have. That's cool. So it just goes back to the old Richmond is authentic, right? Mm-hmm. So we got to keep it authentic, keep the streets repaired, the sewers running, the street lights on. That's my job, right? And then the people down there taking care of their homes, we keep marketing to people across the country, and people will continue to find this place authentic and keep coming here. And that's what we want.
All righty. As we are nearing town to end, one question from the paper for each one of you, and then Mayor Snow, you will be able to kind of give us your elevator speech.
Okay, all right.
All right, so I guess my last question is, so you mentioned marketing Richmond and getting it to more people, to get more people to come here, but not even just come here, but people that live here to come out of,
correct,
out of hiding.
Right.
So, but then when you do that, my question for you is, what measures will you implement to ensure the safety of our neighborhoods and reduce the crime rates?
Yeah, so we're doing that now. We've seen a huge reduction in crime. So our police department uses what's called intelligence-led policing. When I first came in, we were really far behind with our police department. We've raised the wages. Our a starting police officer makes 30% more now in a starting wage than when I started. Mm-hmm. So we've raised it that much, and that's nothing to sneeze at. That's a lot, right? Yeah. We've bought 50 new police cars. We've upgraded all the equipment. So what does all that mean? I mean, I can tell you all that stuff, but how does the data shake out? So our police department tracks every single call that comes into our department, and it's called a call for service, or CFS. This is just the raw data that goes into a computer, right? When I came in as mayor back in the beginning of 2016, that year before, they had seen, I think, 43,000 calls for service. So I wish I had this in front of me. And then this last year, that dropped dramatically. It dropped like 34%. So we're seeing less reasons to call the police because of the way our officers are managing their patrols and how they're interacting with people in their community policing. But the bigger number is back in 2015. So in those calls for service, they don't only track the fact that the call came in, they track the outcomes when the call is complete, right? Mm-hmm. So then they create major categories. So in the major categories in crime, because when you talk about crime rates, right, it's really easy in a campaign to talk about crime rates as a candidate, but we need to get into what those crimes are. Because, are we really worried about larceny, and things like that? No, we're worried about crimes against persons and property, right? Those are the major categories, crimes against persons and property. In that category, since 2015, I became mayor in 2016, and today that number has dropped almost 60%. More than half, it's dropped. And so we went from over 2,000 to just over 800 in major crimes against persons and property. And that's not disputable. It's not arguable. I don't care who else sits in this chair and tries to tell you crime in this city and this and that. They're blowing smoke. I don't care what they say. I've got the actual data. It lives in the police department. It's public documents, public knowledge. You can go ask for the document and they'll print it out for you. We have seen, and that is all credit to our department. We have a tremendous police department. They all care very much about this community, and they work very, very hard in their training and their education. And they have done that work to drive those rates down over the years. And so if you broadcast that around the country, you can show people that we live in a very safe community. We have almost zero random acts of violence in this city. You're not going to walk down the street and randomly get mugged, right? Yeah. If we do have acts of violence, it's two people that knew each other or had some type of relationship. It's almost never just random, right? So a 60% drop in major crimes against persons and property is huge. So we can tell people we do live in a safe city, and I'm proud of our police department for the work they've done.
Yeah, Dave, I love those numbers, and I'm one of my philosophies is men lie, women lie, numbers don't.
That's right. That's right. Exactly.
And so you can't dispute the numbers.
That's
and
the
so
data.
60% increase. So Dave, this is an opportunity for you to kind of share with us your final. Anything you want to share with the listeners?
Thank you. I appreciate that. Look, I love my job. I love the opportunity to get to be the city's mayor. This is a life dream for me to get to have this opportunity. I'm humbled by it. I never. My plan is not to overstay my welcome in this position. I want. There's some more work that I want to get done for the betterment of the whole community, and I want to pave the way for guys like you to someday be running for office. And I hope I see that someday. And I can't wait to someday be fostering the next generation of elected officials to take the helm here and do this job. And that's important to me, how I conduct myself in my campaign and in my job, because for all those young adults watching and saying, I might want to do that someday, I don't want to set a bad example, right? I want to do it the right way so you know that I sit here as an elected official, as a representative of everybody in this city, and I want to be respect everybody, I want to represent everybody with dignity and respect that everyone deserves. And so I love this city. I think we have a ton of potential. And I think when we look at Richmond, as you're going back to the road work and people say, Dave, you've kicked up so much dirt and dust since you've been mayor. I feel like every road's been torn up and the bridge has been torn down and all that. That's because I think when we look at Richmond as a finished city, we rob it of all of its potential. We're not a finished city. We're a city still growing and still thriving and still learning and still rising. And so I just close on saying Richmond is rising. It's an amazing place. I love calling it home, love the job I get to do, and I hope I've done enough to earn your vote on Tuesday.
Thank you, Dave. And one of the things we learned, and it wasn't with this group of students, is that some of the road work was also from the state as well. And
that's what I was talking about earlier. Yeah. And some of it, every mayor or governor, you'll inherit it because it takes so long. Mm-hmm. You'll always inherit some work, and the state does their own scheduling, and it's just all part of being mayor. It's just all part of it. It's just what you inherit.
Well, Dave, thank you for supporting the show by coming on here, Out of the Mouth of Babes, the podcast for our future leaders. We appreciate your time. We appreciate you coming in on this Sunday evening. Thank you.
Thank you guys so much for having me. I really appreciate it. It's been a pleasure to be here.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you. Thank you.
Welcome to Out of the Mouth of Babes, our podcast for our future leaders. Today we have a very special guest in the house, Mr. Ron Oler, or Dr. Ron Oler. Ron, first we will let the students share a little bit about themselves and then turn it over to you for an introduction. And then from that point, they'll be asking you questions and then I'll come back towards the end and sum it all up.
Sounds good.
My name is Kiera Hanley. I'm a junior at Richmond High School. I'm involved with the girls basketball team. I play golf. I'm in the Wayne County Riders. I'm in the RDMs, and I am in the Radiate Bible Study Group at my school.
My name is Kevin Hanley Jr. I wrestle and I play football at Richmond High School. I'm a senior now. I'm a part of the RHS Green Club, the Wayne County Riders, and I dabble in mentoring and such.
Good deal.
So, Ron, tell us a little bit about you and why.
Kevin and I were just talking a few minutes ago. Like Kevin, I wrestled in high school. Did a little football, basketball, baseball, but mostly wrestling. Anyways, so hi, yes, I'm Ron Oler. If you don't know me, I'm the Republican candidate for Richmond's next mayor. And I'm the only mayoral candidate endorsed by our Lieutenant Governor Suzanne Crouch, our U.S. Senator Mike Braun, our State Senator Jeff Rotz, and our State Representative Brad Barrett. And just so you know, I am a lifelong resident of Richmond, Wayne County. That little house I was born in on South 13th and Worley is still down there, although we've moved around since then a few times. Been married 38 years. Actually, I married Sherry. You'll like this. Sherry and I met as part of a junior leaders event, which was like a precursor to what you're doing here. Junior leaders across the high schools. And I was in 10th grade. And then 3 years after high school, got married and been married 38 years since. My family, the Oler name, if you may or may not know this, the Olers were part of the early settlers here. Out in the northeastern part of the county, there's Clyde Oler Road and W. Oler Road. It was their great-great-grandfather and his brother Wesley, or somewhere in that range. It may be great-great-great-grandfather, I don't know. Somebody's lost the history there. But so I've been on council for 12 years, served on a lot of different commissions and committees, and ready for your questions.
Okay.
You did mention, and you want to ask about education in a bit?
Yeah, we'll ask about
Okay.
education a little bit later. Okay. My first question is, so today we've talked a lot about Richmond and how it's a good place. And my question to you is, how would you market Richmond to somebody who's never been?
Richmond is a city with a great, amazing history. And taking that history and what we have today, I think we have a really brilliant future. You know, at one time, the turn of the 1900s, Richmond had more millionaires per capita than any other city in the U.S. The whole Millionaires Road, they call out there along 40, and our historic homes are just incredible. So going forward, I think we have an opportunity to save some of those homes, and that's one of the things I want to work on. Revitalizing these communities, these local communities, and historic homes are very important to the future of Richmond. Not just because they're our past, but because Richmond's probably has an identity crisis. Before your time, we had the Rose City, we had all the roses, we had the Rose Festival. There's a picture on a palladium item of Sherry and I were dating in high school, riding a float between the Wayne County Historical Museum and the Palladium Item building as part of the Rose Parade, and it was pretty awesome. We were just teenagers riding a float. But now, without the roses anymore, the Rose Parade, one of the things I want to do as mayor is come back into the schools and ask you, what do you think you are? And probably as competition. We're not the Rose City anymore. Are we the pet food city? Maybe. Are we historic Richmond? Hopefully. Are we the birthplace of recorded jazz? Yes, we are. Did Hoagie Carmichael record here? Yes, he did. Plastics, aviation, automobiles, airplanes were built here. What's our future? It's entirely up to you.
Yep. Okay.
Okay, can you explain your stance on promoting diversity, inclusion, and equality within our community?
Yes. I worked in higher education for 21 years as a campus director, a dean, and a department chair. And we always, in higher education, our mission is to serve everyone. And in my hiring practices, because I basically hired a lot of faculty, hire based upon qualities. There's no demographic determination as to who you hire and don't hire. It's all about abilities. I got to work, I mentioned earlier, I got to work in Africa. And where I was working in Africa, there was 32 Caucasians and 250,000 Africans, and we worked together great for a month at a time. And because we're all humans, the life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness is the foundation of this nation. And diversity, some will say diversity makes us stronger, and it definitely does, but a lack of diversity makes us weaker. So that's diverse ideas of thought or how we move this city forward.
Okay, my next question for you is because you asked me about education. Can you outline your strategy for improving education and providing equal opportunities for all students within the city?
I do that by giving you an example of what I did. When I was hired by Ivy Tech in 1999 as a department chair, I had the opportunity to go into the high schools and reestablish what we call dual credit agreements. Nobody had done them for quite a while, and I thought this was important. So a dual credit agreement is you take certain high school classes and earn a passing grade. That's important, an A, B, or C. You take a certain class, and that class shows up on your transcript at Ivy Tech, and that saves you thousands of dollars later on in tuition. But now there are 60 colleges and universities in Indiana. We have a very diverse higher education system.
Yep.
So those credits would not just transfer to Ivy Tech, as they still do today. You could transfer to Purdue, to IU, wherever you want to go. I've taught for Indiana Wesleyan. I've taught for Purdue. I still teach for IU East. I haven't taught for Ivy Tech for 3 years now. I retired from there in 2020 to do some other things. But making higher education affordable is something I worked on very hard for 2 decades and will continue to strive for and continue to knock on the governor's door if I have to continue to make higher education affordable.
So me and you are basically best friends because I take all those dual credit and AP and like double
Awesome.
enrollment classes. So
Yeah.
Awesome.
So you're my guy then.
Glad to
Okay.
do that. We thought about it back in the 90s. There had been a dearth of the dual credit agreements, and we were looking at the expense of higher education and money families were spending, and we're trying to find a way to save money. So we did a couple of things. Statewide, Ivy Tech changed its mission to be a true community college and started offering general education classes. And statewide, we met with the presidents of Purdue and IU and made sure those credits would transfer over. So it saves you a lot of time and a lot of money, and your parents a lot of money. I'm sure Dad appreciates that.
I do.
Okay, my next question for you is how do you plan to engage with the youth population to involve them in decision-making processes that affect their future?
That's a great question. When the late Sally Hutton was mayor, I was on council during her term. She had this youth council. One of the things I'm going to create is a community advisory council that'll meet regularly. And a community advisory council, the mayor's not the only leader in the city. There's leaders in the business world. There's leaders in real estate development. There's leaders in manufacturing. There's leaders in healthcare. And there's leaders in youth. So this community advisory council will also include people from the youth. So I will reach out to Kevin and others and say, send me some of your best and brightest youth, and I want them to come to this council and tell me what they need out of Richmond. One of the problems we have in Richmond, one of the challenges we have, is we have so many young people that finish high school here, go to college here or elsewhere, and then move away and don't come back. They move to the donut cities of Indianapolis, or like my nieces living in Oregon now, or my nephew down in Bloomington. Or I can just go on and on and on. I only have a few family members who stayed there, young people. So one of the challenges we have is how do we get them to come back here and stay here? And I don't have the answer. I think you have the answer.
Yeah.
I think the youth can tell me what we need to make this a place that's more attractive to young people.
Okay. My next question for you it switches a little bit from the schools and more back to the public. So how do you plan to, it's like a 3-part question, so it's going to be a little bit longer. How do you plan to address affordable housing, public transportation, and homelessness in the city?
Cool. Let's talk about housing first. Okay. It's no secret that Richmond has a quality housing shortage. I plan to tackle these issues from both sides of the equation. First of all, the city and the county are right now, actually Monday night we'll vote on this, applying for a grant with the Indiana Housing Authority to build the Townsend townhomes in the former Nicholson site. The city's going to put in $50,000, the county's going to put in $50,000, and they're going to build $12.5 million of townhomes on the former Nicholson site. That'll help people who need to get out of some poorly maintained rental homes. And I'm using a polite phrase here. I don't want to say what we call some of these poorly maintained rental homes. So that's one thing we can do. The second thing we can do, the city can help develop, there's plans for a new mixed housing addition on the southeast side over behind Walmart that'll have 90 units, apartments and houses. And it's been in a plan, it's been sitting there for a while. I will, as mayor, ensure that we find the resources as a city to subsidize by subsidize I mean that we find a way to provide the underground and above ground infrastructure at little to no cost for the developer. The biggest holdback right now is the cost of getting the sewer lines in there, the gas lines in there, the water lines in there, the electric in there, and the streets, the curb cuts, and the sidewalks. And the city can play a part in that. We can use some of our financial resources and play a part of that. If we do that, that'll bring the cost down to the developer, and maybe this thing will actually come to fruition and come to happen. Right now, they're building new homes in the $300,000 range, and even I don't qualify for one of those. That's out of my budget, too. So we need to find a way to build homes, middle-class homes around $200,000. And the way we do that is the government helps out the developer by providing some of the costs.
Yeah.
What was your next one? You had 3 parts. That was the first part.
It was public transportation.
Public transportation. We are down 2 bus drivers. We're short 2 bus drivers right now, so I know that the routes have changed and they're limited. Roseview Transit, I think, is a really good asset here. I think more people should use it. I know it takes a little bit of time to get from here to there, to get from there to here. Back in the 1800s, 1900s, we had a trolley that ran through here. You can still see the grade going into Glen Miller Park, the flat spot. I'm not saying bring that back, but we do have affordable bus system. We need to find some more drivers. We need to adjust the routes as needed. And personally, I have my phones out there. I have the Bird app on my phone for Bird scooters. I've used it in Austin, Texas. I've used it in Bloomington. Used it in Indianapolis. Somebody needs to bring the Bird scooters to Richmond so I can,
I've always wanted that. I always wanted to have that. So,
but sidewalks. I mean, we do a pretty good job with sidewalks. You may not know this. When the state rebuilt 8th and 9th Street, they put in some really good sidewalks.
Yeah.
When the city works in a neighborhood, we don't really necessarily have a fund for sidewalks. When we do streets, we use a community crossings matching grant from the state, and we mill and pave streets. We don't really have money for sidewalks. We get money from sidewalks by saving from other areas, but the other way we get it, in our economic development projects, we offer things called tax abatements. So tax abatements on real estate and personal equipment. And every tax abatement that we offer, we ask them for a 10% donation. So if we've saved you $100,000 on your taxes this year, would you donate $10,000 to our sidewalk fund? That's 100% where it goes. So we have quite a few businesses that do that. So they donate money to the sidewalk fund. So we have a plan in place. If there's a sidewalk that's rough and it's up 1 inch, it's either 1 inch or 3/4 inch, I think it's an inch, that's a broken spot, then we get in and replace it as soon as we can. So walkability is important. Public transportation is important. What was your last one part?
homelessness.
Homelessness. Yeah, that's a tough one. We have a lot of non-government organizations, NGOs doing a great job. And the government, the city of Richmond, can help with some of those areas. And how could we help? We have some money set aside for some other projects, so we could even help them with some funding, but that's not it, really. The real answer is complicated and will take a long time. The real answer goes back 30 years.
Yeah.
And it's a long conversation. I've had the conversation with the Indiana State Hospital Association and some of their superintendents of what happened 30 years ago is the American Psychological Association said having people with mental illness living in one community is detrimental to them. We need to just put them out in the community. Well, what happens? That they struggle. They don't have a place to stay. They freeze. We had one last winter died in a fire at a warehouse down here. It was just tragic and terrible. I think it's more cruel what they did to just say, here, go live on the streets, than bring them back. They had a life. They had a house. They had greenhouses. They had gardens. They had cows. They had horses. They basically had their own community where they were taken care of. And not all homeless people have this mental illness issue, but from what I understand, probably 80% of them or so do.
Okay.
So the government at the state level needs to step up, and actually the national level. So these talks are going on in different states right now that maybe we did the wrong thing 30 years ago, that we needed the government to step in at the federal and state level and say we need to provide housing for these people so they don't have to live in the woods behind the mall or something. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Okay, my next question is, why Richmond? Like, what do you love about Richmond for you to be here running for mayor?
What do I love about Richmond? Richmond's my home. Born here, raised here. And I mentioned earlier when I traveled the world and built radio stations, I was often tempted to relocate somewhere else. But I always came back here, always came back to my home because my family's here. Family's important. And in my whole life, if you look at my 3 priorities in my life, it's faith, family, community. My church, my family, and my community are the 3 things that are important to me. I consider myself middle class. I could live anywhere in the United States. I could move tomorrow, but I don't want to because this is my home. I'm vested here, my family's here, and I have friends here. People I went to school with are here. And some of them are struggling, and I help them out the best I can. I have widows on both sides of me. We make sure their yard's okay. We make sure their houses are okay. We make sure they're okay on a regular basis. And that's what neighborhood's about. Richmond is a great neighborhood city. We've got neighbors taking care of neighbors, and I want to continue that and push that. My marketing team created these billboards. You've probably seen them with me and my wife and my dog because I'm a big pet lover. I had something totally different in mind. I had this Uncle Sam and I was going to be Uncle Sam and say, Richmond needs you. Every billboard would say, Richmond needs you. And what does it need you to do? It needs you to take care of your neighbor. It needs you to stay in school. It needs you to go to college. It needs you to get to work. It needs you to walk around your little block and pick up trash and be a good neighbor and a good community citizen. That's what Richmond needs from every one of us. Okay. But they wouldn't let me do that ad campaign, so I just did it. Now you know. Richmond needs you to take care of your neighborhood and yourself.
Marketing controls everything.
Yes.
My next question is, it's still about the public. How will you support local businesses and encourage economic growth in our community?
Great question. Small and large business. So I grew up around small business. I've owned small business. And in we'll call it my campaign for mayor, the different groups I've met with small business owners 3 times, downtown and Depot small business owners 3 times. And I met with them to listen to them, not to tell them what I'm going to do, but to listen to them. They know what they want to do. They know what they need to do. They know the plans. I'm listening to them and saying, what do you need me to do with this street? What do you need me to do with that street? What do I need to do with this facade? What can I do to help? Small business is the backbone of America. Large business, I've been the liaison to the Economic Development Corporation of Wayne County for 12 years. So I'm there to make sure they get all the funding they need and to make sure all their projects pass. So we brought Blue Buffalo here. Liberation Labs is coming. Wolverine Worldwide. We took that abandoned office building on 35, was perfect circle, and got Wolverine Worldwide to move in here. And a bunch of other wins like that. So we need to attack it from both ends. And I think we've done a really good job at the big business level with the Economic Development Corporation of Wayne County, but I think the city administration has kind of lost touch with small business. I mean, look at the downtown. They're gone. Where'd they go? So we need to get them back here. We need to communicate with them, listen to them, and they'll be on that community advisory council along with you.
Yeah.
And you can say, hey, I want this kind of store here too, by the way. If you've ever been to Middletown, Ohio, there's Grandpa's Candy Store. It's pretty awesome. I recommend you check it out.
My next question for you is, what events led you to wanting to run for mayor?
What led me to want to run for mayor? Like I said, I've been on council for 12 years, and the timing is right. Everything in your life is about timing. You're about to graduate high school. You got some college choices or work choices. You know, I took a gap year before I went to college because I didn't know what I wanted to do, and it was the best thing I did. And then I'll tell you about my college career later on. So it's all about timing. So I said 3 years ago, I left Ivy Tech after a 21-year career, did just about everything there. And I came back and helped the family business, a project manager in a construction company. And with my experience as an engineer, education, and a project manager, after a lot of heartfelt thoughts last year, it led me to decide that I could be a really good mayor. But it's not just me, it's everybody around me. People kept asking me for an entire year. It was January last year, they started asking me, why don't you run for mayor? They put the idea in my head. and I couldn't come up with a good answer why not. With all of my skill set, my experience, and my passion for the city, I couldn't give an answer why not.
Okay. I thought that was really good. Got me thinking about that. Okay, so you really got me thinking about that.
Okay.
My bad. Okay, so what measures will you implement to ensure the safety of our neighborhoods and reduce crime rates?
That's great. So the second largest group I met with are law enforcement officers over the course of this campaign. One of the things we've talked about is reestablishing relationship with the neighborhood associations, reactivating the neighborhood associations. That's the first step in bringing back a community policing model that we had here maybe 20 years ago that worked really well. Crime in the neighborhoods is a huge problem right now. Theft of property and other crimes in the neighborhoods is a huge problem. And the way you solve that is that neighbors keep a lookout and you establish, you hire up the law enforcement. We've got to hire up quite a few more law enforcement officers. And you have a law enforcement officer who is assigned to that neighborhood. So the neighborhood watch, if it's what you want to call them, I don't want to call them that, but if they see something, they know they can call Officer Roberts, because Officer Roberts is on duty second shift. And Officer Roberts will respond because Officer Roberts knows where this person lives, and this person is keeping an eye out on that neighborhood. So that whole community policing model, and there's a lot more to it than that, but it's just getting you involved in your public safety. So see something, say something. Don't be afraid to call 911 if you need to, and we'll get somebody out there to see what's going on. The other way to stop crime is, of course, is to increase patrols. So I want to expand our take-home car with the officers, for Richmond police officers. They just started doing that a little bit again, but I want to practically insist that every officer takes home a car. If there's a car parked in the neighborhood and around this block, there's less crime in that block.
Yeah.
Well, I won't go into that. So I was going to give you what one of the donut cities of Indianapolis did, but I'll save that for another time. I don't want to spend half an hour here and bore people.
Okay. What steps can you take to promote sustainable and environmentally friendly practices within our city?
Good question. Good question. During COVID, I met with Elijah Welch, the engineer of the sanitation department, and I asked him, it was like the third month into COVID, I asked Elijah, what can we do about all these cardboard boxes? And I had a vision of getting some dumpsters, cardboard boxes, because everybody was ordering stuff from Amazon. They weren't shopping anymore. It was coming from Amazon. We were inundated with cardboard boxes at the landfill. I said, what can we do to recycle cardboard boxes? Can we get some dumpsters and cut a slot in them, place them around the city, and put it in there? And we thought that was a great idea. But then the state came up with a grant idea of the cardboard rollers we have today. So that whole thing grew out of just this conversation of what can we do to stop throwing cardboard in a landfill and be more sustainable. So now we have the cardboard rollers. My family's recycled as much as we can all the time. The other thing we're doing, we're going to put some money toward a landfill diversion program at the landfill. So when building materials come in, that wood scrap can be taken elsewhere and can be used to make OSB, can make other products instead of just going to landfill. So there's a lot of scraps that come into landfill that can be diverted. We just have to put a little money toward it so we don't fill up our landfill with stuff that could be reused. So I'm all in favor of that. We tried to do gas wells at the landfill about 12 years ago, but there really wasn't enough gas coming out of the landfill to actually capture it and do something with it. So they still just burn it off today, but we tried. So anything. In my role on Richmond Power and Light, we worked with Meyer several years ago to get the Tesla's charging stations in there for electric vehicles. And working with Meyer, we talked to Meyer that we're going to put these Tesla superchargers in, and there's going to be this box with all the transformer equipment that RP&L owns. Can you leave us some parking spaces on the other side for RP&L to put level 2 chargers? And they did. That's why there's 8 parking spaces over there. We were just about to install them. We had an agreement with a company called ChargePoint, which is all over the nation, app on your phone to charge your EV. Not a Tesla, but another. And then the state came along and said they're going to use the Volkswagen settle it to build those. And that was like 4 years now. So we're still waiting on the state to build those, but I just heard last week that they're finally moving forward with bringing those electric vehicle chargers in. The reason I bring that up is Northeastern is going to get some electric buses. I think the city needs to look at some electric buses. So we'll let them pilot them, and if they work really well, maybe we'll convert our Roseview Transit fleet to electric. Maybe we'll convert some other vehicles to electric. Right now, electric Tesla police cars can be a thing, but they're crazy expensive. Much more than the Dodge Chargers and the Ford Explorers we have. So until it becomes economical, we probably won't do that, although I would like to see that.
All right. Ron, thank you for stopping in to Out of the Mouth of Babes.
Good.
This is your time for what I call the elevator speech, the conclusion statement. So please share with us.
Well, thank you for having me. It's been fun. It's been nice meeting you guys. This is pretty cool. I remember years ago, Kevin, you told me this was here, but I never made it up, so I'm glad I finally made it up here. You're doing a great thing here. Just say get out and vote on the 7th. Voter turnout is tracking what it was 4 years ago, which is unfortunately low. So get out and vote on November 7th, please. I hope I get your vote. I hope I earn your vote. And one of the things I'll leave you with is that, I'm happy when you said come and talk to the youth. I'm very happy to talk to the youth because, the youth are our future. and our future is only as strong as our youth. So if all of our youth are as strong as these two fine young people right here, I think we're in good hands.
Yep. Thank you. Thank you for Out of the Mouth of Babe, the podcast for our youth, our future leaders. Thank you.